Guys, we have a special show today. I am on with the GOAT himself, Basil, from Twitter, from the Basil and Benny show. I'm so honored to have him on. And Basil, I got to thank you for coming on, brother.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So I got to ask, like, it's been kind of crazy just everything going on. Oh, let me make sure my mic's unmuted. It's been crazy, like, with everything going on Twitter the past few days. I mean, I remember seeing you in the space about the whole, like, you know, Sarah and Elijah controversy and stuff and what have you. But even, like, all the stuff that has been going on with, like, Captive Dreamer recently and really just sort of the culture online. You're holding it down on the timeline.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, even with, with like the whole bit really is about like media market literacy and like understanding Twitter as like a microcosm of the media market. So even in that space that we were in last night, everyone was talking about the whole Elijah Schaefer and Sarah Stock stuff. So much of it, in my opinion, no offense to Beardson or anything, was like slop. It was kind of just like, let's relish in the, oh my God, so-and-so fucked so-and-so, and oh my God. And it's like, listen, I love slop. I love daytime TV. I love reality trash TV as much as the next guy. But like, what my whole thing is like, wait, let's take a step back and look at why this is happening. Who are the top people who are pushing this? Milo, Ren, and Martin, right? It's like, okay, so what does that tell you? It's like, okay, well, when you know their connections with like Jonathan Keeperman and Passage Press, does it start to sound like maybe this is like revenge of the Blaze, or maybe this has something to do with El Salvador? Like, let's talk about this in like a market aspect. But some people just like their slop. People do love their slop.
They do. And people love to kind of relish in the suffering of other people, seeing other people, their downfall or what have you. And I think a lot of people fail to kind of see the larger narrative at play. It's like, why did Milo have the sort of impetus to like leak all that information? Is it because he's this virtuous guy? No, dude, he's like popping perks and, still getting butt blasted by his like black boyfriend and stuff like that. Well, of course, performatively wearing a rosary. We can't forget that.
Yeah, no, it's so true. That's exactly the thing where it's like, I say all the time and it really annoys people, but it's like so fucking true where it's like, I've never met a fucking social conservative in my fucking life. Who the fuck are we? It's like, it's 2026. Everyone I interact with is like 40 or under. No one's a fucking social conservative. Like and I don't mean that as to say like, I have any issue with social conservatives or social conservatism, right? Like, go off, have fun. But like, I'm not a social conservative. I've never met a social conservative. I met tons of people who LARP. I met tons of people who pretend to be this or pretend to be that. And I don't mean that in the way of like, oh my God, the hypocrisy, as though I'm expecting them to live up to that social conservative thing. I'm actually expecting them to like live in reality where it's like, oh yeah, you think Milo gives a fuck who's cheating on their wife? Hello, Jonathan Keeperman. Hello, Astral. Hello, all of these people. It's like, no one gives a fuck about that. They care about it as a means to like knife this guy in the market.
Dude, 100%. And it's all to say that the ideal exists. And sometimes I feel like when people rebut social conservatism or they point to the hypocrisy of like these figures, they say, well, the higher ideal doesn't exist. I would have to disagree with that. But at the same time, I think with this whole like trad sphere stuff, it's a lot of people who it's not about the ideal. It's more about the brand, right? The brand. Oh, right. I'm the trad wife. I'm the trad husband. We were just making jokes about like churning butter and all that kind of stuff. And all it is like living through a simulacrum, right? Or I probably mispronounced that word, but this kind of like view of reality, this film over reality, that's not real.
No, it's so true because it's like, the thing is like the ideal absolutely does exist, right? But it's kind of like, so like I said, like when we're dealing with Twitter, we're dealing with YouTube, and we're dealing with all of this stuff, we're dealing with the media market.
Absolutely.
There's a conflation of trying to like kind of impose the morality of the monastery or impose the morality of the church in the market. The market is amoral, right? So it ends up becoming this type of thing where it's like, you are out of place. You are trying to force something by trying to wedge your brand into this kind of trad, framework. And it's, to me, I find it actually quite distasteful because like, I'm not a good Muslim by any stretch of the imagination, right? But I am a Muslim and I have very deep reverence for Christians and Orthodox Christians and Orthodox Jews and, or, Catholics and that type of thing. Not so much for like the Justin Bieber mega church, like God is love, anything goes type of thing. That's not my vibe. But that being said, it's like that's why I find it very distasteful to kind of make your brand Christianity TM or Muslim TM, like with a trademark symbol at the end of it. Because it's like you're trying to do this very amoral thing of entertainment, right? Of infotainment, political entertainment, political commentary, but trying to, sell it, and oftentimes trying to make up for the lack of actual value of the content that you're producing by being like, well, I'm your Christian brother, I'm your trad sister, I'm your this, and it's like, dude, I actually find it distasteful. It sullies it, it makes it cheap and it's like something that's not that. It's something that's deeply profound.
Absolutely. It's something that is a reality, right? I mean, I know in Islam, there's a tradition of deep, deep mysticism, right? And this deep mystical experience of God and the pursuit of God. And, both of us from our backgrounds, we look at this and we see, not that we're perfect people ourselves, but we, at least I think, are trying to strive for the ideals in our religion in the best way we can. And to see these people kind of come out and almost, I think, depict themselves in a way where they've reached it, right? They've reached the zenith. I'm the perfect ideal. I'm the ideal itself. It's very distasteful, as you said. I could not have put it better myself.
Well, the thing is, for speaking for myself, it's like I actually avoid, attaching my religiosity at all to my take selling, right? It's like nothing about my take selling is predicated on, me being Muslim. It does inform a lot of like what I think about. So like when I say like gay is not real, gay TM is not, it's like that whole thing. It's like, yeah, because I'm Muslim and we don't view sexual identities in that type of way where it's like an innate intrinsic, and real Christians understand this and Orthodox Jews understand this. It's the kind of Justin Bieber megachurch type of Christian or the Reformed Jew that doesn't understand this. It's like, what do you mean? How can you be Muslim? You're gay. And it's like, dude, like you sound like a fucking lib. Like I've been celibate for how many years? What are you talking about? It's like none of this makes sense if you are actually, unless you're a lib. But it's like the reason why I'm like very much I will never market myself as a Muslim take seller is because like I'm not a good Muslim in any stretch of the imagination. Not only do I not want to present that way, it's like that's not how I live my life, So it's like I'm not going to put myself in this kind of straitjacket that I'm like only setting myself up to fail. And that's kind of what a lot of these people do, where it's like someone like a Sarah Stock, nothing against her, she's a very nice girl. But it's like you're setting yourself up to fail because you're marketing yourself as trad trademark or Christian trademark. Because it's like, and Richard Spencer made this point where it's like, you're not selling your takes. You're selling yourself as the take seller, as this trad person, as this kind of personification of that brand. Whereas Richard was juxtaposing that to himself, where he's like, listen, it's not about what I look like. I mean, listen, I love looking at Richard talk, right? But it's like his takes are about what's coming from his mind, right? It doesn't matter what he looks like, how he lives his life. It's like you're listening to him because of the ideas and the takes themselves. Same with me. People will be like, oh, you're brown, you're gay, you're fat, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, bitch, am I wrong though? And it's like, that's the thing. And it's like, so with like Sarah Stock or many of these trad people, it's like, they can't actually be wrong because nothing that they actually say is like, novel or interesting or falsifiable or whatever. It's like what they're just selling is like regurgitating what we've all heard a million times, but like being blonde and in a milkmaid dress.
That's exactly it. For you or Richard or any of these other figures, it's about the message, right? It's about sort of the truth that you're trying to speak about. And you're merely like the conduit for it, like the message relayer, right? Whereas in this case, and kind of the general problem with the internet, I mean, we can look at this in any sphere. I know this is a very common thing with like, media influencers or, even people who like make like videos about Pokemon or something they become the brand itself. And when there's a perceived failure, because all human beings are going to fail, then people say, oh, it must be Pokemon that's bad. It must be all streamers who stream video games are bad or rapists or, I mean, right. As you probably know, like the whole perception of Minecraft streamers has been completely destroyed online because of all the pedophilia scandals they've had and stuff like that. And so now it's almost like a running bit where if you're a Minecraft streamer, it's like, they not like
How
us,
long
right?
until the accusations, how long until the accusations come out? Exactly. But that's why I'm like, I kind of want us to move away in all regards from all LARPs, right? Not just the trad LARP or the Christian LARP or whatever, but also like the Nazi LARP or the
Mm.
lolly LARP or all of those things, the Wignat LARP, the white nationalist LARP. It's like, you're not a Nazi. You're not a white nationalist. You're not any of this. You're a racist right liberal. That's okay, right? Because what we all are basically talking about, and like, none of us are saying like we're going to form armed militias and do this and that. No, we're saying we're going to vote this way in that election or vote that way or withhold our vote or speak in this way or protest or whatever. We're working within the frame of reality as it exists, which is a liberal frame. We're all right liberals who are obviously like conscious of race and whatever, and some of us are Christians and some of us are religious or whatever the case may be. But it's like, you're not a fucking Nazi, bro. And it's like, actually, on top of it, it's like, why do you choose to be the boogeyman that the left uses as a rhetorical device to censor all of us? So that when they point it to you and say, look, he is a Nazi. It's like, first of all, you're not a fucking Nazi. It's not the
No.
1930s in Germany. So it's like, fucking cut the LARP. That's like a really big thing I think moving forward. It's like the successful people are going to be the people who like leave the LARP shit of like alt-right 1.0 behind.
That's exactly it. And I think in some ways, I've always perceived it to be. By the way, what martini are you drinking? I'm curious.
I am having a dirty vodka martini. I have all these like blue cheese stuffed olives left from the last time I had friends over, and I was like, I need to get rid of these before these turn.
Those are so good, honestly.
Yeah, that's all, like, I'm not gonna like ever present myself as like a Muslim take seller. It'd be ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And it's all to mention too, like, I've noticed this trend on the internet with how the internet is now meta reality, right? It touches our reality. It is real. It's not accurate to say it's not real, but it affords enough illusion or plain pretend that, when you were giving the Nazi example, right? If you were a Nazi in the past, there was no social media. So that was like something, even if you were maybe a hypocrite still, I know there was a lot of cases of that back in like the 80s and 70s with, the neo-Nazi movements or what have you. You still had to like live that way, right? You had to still physically like present that to yourself in public, in your lifestyle. Now it's almost like with social media and the further expansion of the internet, it's all about the depiction that you put online, the image that you put online, but then how you actually live is completely different. And what I appreciate about what you're saying, Basil, is breaking down kind of that wall. It's like, just admit, it's like, you're never going to be in the beer hall push, bro. Like, you have an Asian girlfriend, you're never going to be in the beer hall push. Let's be for real, just for a moment.
Exactly. And it's because it's bifurcated. It is a symptom of the internet and everything being mediated. Like, even look at us right now, like our conversation is mediated through multiple screens and cameras and whatever. But it's like, it's because of that. Like, so I think what in the, the alt-right 1.0 type of sphere of like the National Justice Party and all those types of people and the fucking TRS people, it's like that distance allowed for so much of this LARP, the distance between their real life and the internet presentation of themselves, right? But what we kept seeing was like all of these like moments when the illusion breaks and reality seeps in, and it leads to all these like unnecessarily embarrassing moments, etc., all these call outs, all these cancellations, whatever the case may be, where I think, like, I've always said that my greatest strength and defense in this whole thing has been honesty, right?
Absolutely.
I never told you anything else. I never lied about like, yes, I'm brown, I'm fat, I'm gay, like all that shit. But it's like I can't be exposed, right? And I think that is something that I would tell anyone that's, especially if they want to get into like the take selling aspect of it. Forget about just being like a lurker or a reply guy or whatever, do whatever the fuck you want. But if you want to be a take seller, I think the smaller you make that gap between your reality and your presentation of yourself, the better, the less headaches you'll have down the road. It's like, I couldn't imagine living a lie online like that.
You just at some point feel so dishonest that it's almost like what keeps you up at night, right? Like your head will hit the pillow and you're just tossing and turning, realizing like everything I depict to people is like a lie online. And that's not a way you want to live. If you have faults, if you're an imperfect person or whatever, okay, that is what you are. And that's, maybe what you struggle through or you endure. That's the like hero's journey, but that's okay. And people can respect that more than exactly what you were saying. Depicting yourself when the camera's on one way and then you're living this completely like hedonistic lifestyle or just even a fake lifestyle at that.
Right. And the thing is, it's like people want that. People want you to be real. People don't want, you know, I'm sorry, if I want a priest, I'll go to a church. If I want to,
Exactly.
if I want, a trad wife, I'll go to Afghanistan to marry my cousin. I'll like the thing is like I don't need I actually prefer if someone has all of the correct political positions, but is them this I'm speaking personally for myself, but has all of these like moral failings because
Right.
it shows that you actually can be anti-left. You can be against that political coalition that wants to like censor us and flood the country with migrants and trans people's kids and get us to like die in wars for Israel without having to adopt all of these stupid little play pretend things. And that's what I think has been the framework, where it's kind of like people have this expectation that if you wanted to be opposed to the left, you had to do it on the base. And this is a huge confusion that still exists on the right, where people confuse morality and politics, right? They say, oh, the world is like this way because we've gotten away from morality or whatever the case may be. And it's like, no, we are here because there is a political coalition that exists that's funded by tech, defense, pharma, and finance. There's Jewish supremacism. There's a Jewish fifth column in the United States, and it funds the professional managerial class in all of these cities and lumpen proletariat elements like OnlyFans whores and criminals and whatever. And that is the material political opponent that we are all reacting against. And so as long as you understand what that is and you don't run cover for it, right? So you don't say, oh, like I'm Blair White, I'm trans, but I'm moral, or whatever the case may be, or I'm whatever the case may be. If you confuse the morality with the politics, you end up kind of with this flattened, completely cookie cutter type of fake person that is easily compromised, that is not an original thinker, that can't react in the moment. But if you have this thing where you center the material political aspects of it, well, then what you end up having is like a diverse cacophony of people who all come from with different angles and can all react independently and see it for what it is and provide insightful thoughts, and they're all end up being more interesting. They have their faults, they have their idiosyncratic ticks or whatever. It's not like this stupid gay little play pretend.
Absolutely. And I really think that it's kind of exactly that. It's about this. Even though I would maybe say that there is a moral component to politics. That being said, I completely would agree and see what you're saying, where it's this thing of signaling online, like Blair White, for instance, going on and saying, "Oh, I'm Christian, I guess, but I'm not going to detransition," right? Having your cake and eating it too, and at that point, there's that compromise there. Whereas if you're more direct and you're like, look, there are these material forces that are compromising everything, that are creating our country to be this kind of disparate state that we now see it. Let's target that. Let's just be real about that. It's like, I'm an ordinary person. You're an ordinary person. I'm nothing special, but I'm a concerned citizen. That gives you kind of a level of armor that they really can't like break down. Whereas, I mean, it's like how many of these influencers or what have you will, kind of put on airs and put on this energy, and then instantly they're compromised. And the true and good things that they said almost get lumped in with it. I mean, with the recent leaks and stuff like that, that's the attempt, right? Is, well, if you're critical of Jewish power, if you're critical of Barry Weiss and the Bapsphere and stuff like that, well, you must secretly be cheating on your spouse. You must be this drug addicted cokehead, and nothing that you say we can trust. That's the subtext going on.
Well, to put a fine point on it about the morality thing, it's like, of course, I don't deny that there's, I I think that our politics are informed by the fact that we're moral people, right? Because
Exactly.
the fact is, like, I don't want to flood the country with migrants because my morality tells me that we should take care of ourselves and our neighbors and whatever. This isn't about flooding the country to make everyone's life worse or whatever the case may be. But I think a good example of this would be like, I remember it right before this last election in 2024, right? Donald Trump came out and said that he was not going to do a federal abortion ban, right? When you're anti-left, if you're going to be a part of an anti-left coalition, social conservatives, Christians, whatever, the evangelical voting bloc is necessarily going to be a part of that coalition because they turn out votes and it's a part of the country, right? But what you saw were take sellers who, are Christian TM, who are like, I speak on behalf of the evangelical voting bloc, for example, saying, well, If he's not going to do a federal abortion ban, then I can't support Trump and da 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 da. It's like, okay, well now look, you've confused your morality with politics, right? Because what you're saying is you're forcing Trump to shoot himself, his whole campaign to shoot itself in the foot to abide by your morality, whatever the case may be. And the fact of the matter is, it's like your position is actually, moral or not, we live in reality. We live in a democracy, is incredibly unpopular. A federal abortion ban is incredibly unpopular. But rather than do what the left did and work for their inverted morality, which for the past 20, 30 years, they went state by state by state to pass gay marriage at the state level. So that way, when the Supreme Court did Obergefell and made it legal across the country, it was already legal in half the states. These people want to use Christianity as a brand because they make money off of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they're fundamentally lazy. They want the head of the ticket to shoot itself in the foot so that they don't have to do the work that the left did with gay marriage, for example. Right? So it's like this. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, I want, like, your morality is between you and God. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you care so much about morality, you be a moral person. I care about the politics. I want to make sure that we're doing mass deportations, that we're rolling back the Civil Rights Act, that we're calling out Jewish supremacism. Like, that's the type of thing that I'm always like, that's why it's like, I never call myself a conservative. I never call myself right wing. I just say I'm anti-left. I'm anti that political coalition.
No, that completely makes sense. And there's a level of detachment from political realism. I mean, I'll be fully transparent. I'm super passionate about the abortion issue, but what you said there, I thought was so pertinent because it's like, okay, for instance, in 2016, when Trump seemingly was less compromised and we were all voting for him, to use kind of a historical analogy, he was kind of like a Constantinian figure. It's like, he's not perfect. He's not maybe exactly what we want. He's not our, far right uber chud or whatever, but he at least gave us leverage to like speak about these ideas that you were never going to get under like John McCain or Mitt Romney or any other Republican. And I saw a lot of people at the time kind of like moral fag about it and be like, well, he's imperfect on all these issues, so I'm not going to vote for him. Well, that's kind of besides the point, brother. It's like, if you have a grander vision, you have to take steps to get there. And exactly what you were saying about like the state level, like the left had a grander vision. They understood that they weren't going to reach, gay marriage on a federal level tomorrow, but they took the steps needed to get there and they were willing to put in the work. The right is just lazy. It's like they almost want this like perfect candidate that doesn't exist, or if they did exist, probably would not be in the situation to be able to be properly elected and give them what they want. So they're like unwilling to kind of adopt these more subversive tactics that would otherwise help them and benefit them, just like the left. And they want to do this kind of like grandstanding that ultimately leads to them being, ironically, as you were saying, I'm a political person, apolitical.
They're very unsophisticated that way. And I think 2016 is a really good analogy to compare 2016 Trump's 2024 Trump, especially the context of like social conservatism, because by 2024, social conservatism is dead, right? By 2024, Trump is waving the LGBT flag. They remove all the gay marriage opposition from the platform. Scott Bessett's in the thing, whatever. 2016, he was still at Liberty University. He was still pretending like he knew Bible verses, but because he had to appeal to this very unsophisticated evangelical bloc that was like, can't separate, like, my politician is not my fucking priest. I'm not voting for a monk. It's like, oh, well, he has all these fucking, and you know what it is? The left cynically uses it against them because they'll be like, well, he had all of these affairs. He had all these wives. And it's like these stupid, no offense to these people, but these stupid, unsophisticated chuds are like, well, I don't know. He did have a bunch of affairs. It's like, dude, I'm not voting for a monk. Go to your fucking priest. It's like, I'm voting for a president.
And with the way that American politics are right now, I mean, sadly, it's like, if you're expecting to vote for a monk, like, it's going to be a long time before something like that's even possible, right? You have this grander vision. What world are you living in? Yeah, so it's like you have to contend with the reality that you live in. And it's weird because, like, historically, the right wing, even the far right, has a lot of good political realists like Carl Schmitt. But they're now like allergic to it in the 2020s, right? They're completely allergic to it. And instead, they want to like indulge in this kind of like fantasy playing pretend like kids playing, Castle or Kingdom or whatever. And it's like, dude, that's not exactly what you said, Basil. It's not what we live in.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because for the past say 10 years or whatever, the people on the right who were kind of trying to push a kind of Schmittian type of thing, they would make these same type of arguments against, social conservatives, people who LARPing and whatever. But lo and behold, their whole thing just devolves into, well, LARP is a Bronze Age vitalist and Israel is the Bronze Age country and, Jews are Bronze Age and da-da-da. It's like, okay, exactly. Sure, you were right in your application of in your assessment of value in Schmittian friend-enemy distinction, all that type of thing, but yours is just as much of a LARP.
Exactly.
And it's because all of them are foreign facets, but it's like LARPing as a Bronze Age vitalist, whatever, is just as gay as, in my opinion, LARPing as a Nazi or LARPing as a whatever. It's like, you're not any of those things.
Legit.
you are just be yourself.
Well, and we've all seen the picture of Constant where it's like he looks like he's 8 months pregnant, man boobs. I mean, talk about, there's people online calling like you fat or whatever, and you look like a normal dude. It's like, look at him, dude. Like, he's not some pagan bodybuilder. Two people can be fat at the same time.
I
consider you my buddy, so I'm like, okay, I got to go to bat for my homie. But I love that.
No, but it's the same type of thing, because those same people. A better example will be like, oh, well, Basil's gay. You're listening to Basil. It's like, dude, Ben Braddock is gay. Benjamin Roberts is gay. Half of you people are gay. And so it's like, I know Patrick Casey one time when it let me up in a space because they're like, oh, I think Basil's gay. It's like, dude, you were running cover for Sam Dixon Sucking Fox in Florida. What are you talking about? So that's the thing. It's like, but what I love about it, what I actually love about my presence in the market is that it kind of forces these cynical things to the fore, because when someone's like, oh, don't listen to Basil because he's brown, I'm gonna be the first one to be like, okay, but you paid money to go see Razib Khan talk. You paid money to go see Indian Bronson speak, right? But they're brown. Oh, don't listen to Basil because he's gay. It's like, okay, well, you listen to Ben Braddock. Okay, well, you listen to Benjamin Roberts. Okay, so what are we talking about here? It kind of forces the fact that it's like a completely cynical market technique. It's like, don't listen. We cannot have you listen to what Basil says when he points out the connections between Bronze Age Pervert and Red Scare and Passage Press and I Am 1776 and Claremont and Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen. So rather than try to engage with any of that and try to deny that these obvious things are obvious, we're just gonna say Basil's brown, Basil's fat, Basil's gay. And it's like, that's why I'm like, thank God I never pretended to be anything else, because it's like, okay, what there's no exposure here, there's no expose here.
And it's so funny too. It's like they'll say all that about you, but then they'll defend like a figure, or like Trump's involvement with a figure like Roy Cohn, right? Where he's running these like sex parties and running blackmail. I mean, he's an Epstein type figure. Let's be for real. But then, these same people are gonna like moral fag Nick for selling the quarter zip on Fuente's store, right? Like, come on, man. Like, don't pretend like you're some
right there with Elon Musk and Caitlyn Jenner, right? The same people who would tell you, like, for example, like, Jonathan Kieferman or these type of people will be like, oh, Basil's fat, Basil's brown, Basil's gay. My dude, you published Pariah in your magazine. Like, front and center, centerfold model, you put a tranny in your magazine. And that's actually what blew up the whole, my position vis-a-vis them, was because when that came out, first of all, the reason why that even came out was because I got booted from a Dime Square event by them. And in order to flex on me, Pariah posted himself in that magazine. So, and he was like, where's my check? Just to flex on me, be like, oh, you got kicked out of the event, I'm in the magazine, right? Good job, you fucking idiot. But while everyone was having a reaction as like, oh, look, ew, a tranny in the magazine, I was the only one who was able to be like, why'd they put the tranny in the magazine?
Right.
They put the tranny in the magazine because Passage Press sponsored the Elena Velez fashion show, and they made that deal at Urbit, Portugal, right? So I was able to draw these connections between Passage Press, Dime Square, Urbit, Curtis Yarvin, blah, 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 blah. And that was unacceptable to them, because for a really, really long time, if you tried to say like, BAP and Anna Khachiyan are two wings of the same patronage network, they would try to gaslight you to the ends of the earth, be like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And that specific moment really like pulled the curtain back to be like, oh yeah, we are actually all on the take together.
It makes complete sense. I mean, while everyone was, and I remember that, was that 2 years ago when the whole thing about Man's World magazine blew up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Gosh,
it's like 2 summers ago.
dude, I feel old, honestly. I can't
I
even
know
believe
it's
that
like
was two summers again.
time is flying.
It literally is. And everybody, you're right, was keeping it at that like discussion of like, oh, there's a tranny in the magazine, right? Which was worth criticizing, but it's like we knew Bab was gay already and stuff. Like people had already been saying that. It was just kind of doubling down. You drawing that connection though, that really overturned the rock with all the ants underneath, right? Because suddenly it gets into looking into their network and the sort of impetus for why do they have these connections? Like, why are they kind of trying to influence culture in this way? It's been very, very, very odd and a deceptive measure because I remember for a long time, one of the things, kind of the more Catholic side of the internet, they were praising. Oh gosh, who's the Jewish immigration guy? Stephen Miller. I'm sorry, I'm so behind on politics.
Yeah.
Stephen Miller, right? Yeah. And they were drawing connections to him and the first Jewish senator that ever was in the United States. But what they were trying to say is, oh, Catholicism's brown. It's a brown religion. It's the religion of the invaders, right? And they would use that as a point against us, and they would bring up like Stephen Miller and this connection to Louis Charles Levin, the first Jewish senator, because he was running anti-Catholic immigration campaigns way back in the day and totally like lost his mind later in his life and had this total crash out. But it was interesting to see how it was all a part of this like matrix of, the BAP network, getting money from Teal, all these different like publishing houses and figures that I didn't realize how deep it went until I started to kind of pull that thread. And I'm like, why is a tech billionaire funding this like seemingly almost kind of irrelevant far right figure? But it's again, like the media market, right? Twitter is the media market. And so even though he may seem irrelevant to like your average Joe on the street, there's a deeper influence going on that's really shifting culture.
Exactly, because what happened was so we had that kind of alt-right 1.0, right? After Charlottesville, that whole thing kind of just blew up and imploded. But what these tech billionaires saw was like, wait, there is this kind of influence machine that's able to be worked if you work it, right? So then you saw all of this flooding of like money towards, Red Scare, BAP, all of these types of people. And it kind of was like, if you think about like Barstool Sports, for example, Barstool Sports has like a bunch of properties like the Nelk Boys and Call Her Daddy and whatever, but they all lead you to the same conclusion, which is sports betting and whatever, basically, and this is kind of the same thing where it's like on the one hand, for the kind of post leftists, they got Red Scare, and on the the alt right got BAP. And they both end up meeting in the middle of vote for JD Vance in 2028. But what you see here is like, anytime you have any kind of cognizable group forming on the internet, what smart money is going to do is going to try to create some sort of relationship with somebody in that sphere. So that way down the road, they can start being like, oh, well, maybe you don't do this, or maybe you don't do that, or blah, 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 blah. So that's why you see like Teal tentacles in something like Opus Dei, you already see Teal tentacles in it. Or even the homocons. Like if you follow the homocons, which I do, you don't follow them, let me do it. You'll see like, oh, there's Claremont Fellows, and there's all these, it's like, okay, yeah, obviously Claremont's there, Teal is there. The Hallow app, the app that, Tucker Carlson and Gwen Stefani promote, that's also sponsored, but that was also funded by Teal. It's like, so because it's like, all right, cool. That's why Dasha became, not why Dasha became Catholic, but it's like, that's why like Catholicism became such a meme in New York City at a certain time, was because it's like, it was a coordinated push for this thing where it's like, okay, yeah, we see people are going to start going towards religiosity. We're seeing that there's like this kind of Catholic revival in New York City. Let's put some money in there. Let's take some people out. Let's do something, like, what I'm saying? So it's like, and exactly, it's about being media market literate. So that way you're not just reacting to the current thing that's put in front of you, right? You're not just reacting to the Elijah Schaffer subplot. You're able to do an analysis of like, right, so Milo, Ren, and Martin, we know those people are connected regardless. They're all pushing it together. They're connected to the Blaze through Jonathan Kieferman and John Doyle. Okay, Elijah Schaffer was at the Blaze, left, got sued by them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. etc. Okay, so maybe there's a connection there. Oh wait, Elijah Schaefer is also always in El Salvador. We also know that Martin Wren and Milo have a connection to Benjamin Braddock and IM 1776. Benjamin Braddock is also an unregistered foreign agent for Bukele. Oh, okay, so maybe that they're like there's some sort of turf war going on here. Like those are that's the market analysis as opposed to just like beginning and ending at the point of slop.
Absolutely. And it was weird because I remember when there was that like kind of ironically I'm using the term subplot again, that subplot of like New York Catholic revival, but what I found so disgusting about it was like it was very like queer coded. It was like almost like the Pet Shop Boys like It's a Sin music video, like chains and whips and like penitential stuff, but not like you're actually trying to like not sin anymore. It's more like, you know, oh, I've been so bad and stuff like that. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Excuse my language, but I'm like, this is like very odd. But now seeing all the money behind it, all the money to drive that, and you see that you commented on this with Curtis Yarvin. Now he's converting to Orthodoxy. Now Orthodoxy is the new LARP and stuff like that because it gives enough like, you know, they kind of have their finger on the pulse of this cultural shift towards like more traditional Christianity. But I think in a weird way, Eastern Orthodoxy offers them enough freedom that it's almost like Protestantism with the sacraments, right? It's like, if I wanted to say like my bishop's a lib or whatever and disobey him, I can, and I can have all this sort of like deeper teal, like what's my real angle I'm trying to work here kind of plausibility, right?
And then when you remember that, you know, Man's World has published Dugan, and there's this like Russia thing, you know, it's like that's the type of thing where it's like there's an analysis of the level of like, you know, almost like culturally, like, all right, what does this mean? And then it's like, oh, right, this guy's publishing this guy is sponsoring this guy is, you know, that type of thing is like really, you know, I'm just glad that because the moneyed interests are, you know, defense contractors and surveillance contractors whose interests run through Israel, right? And that's another thing that a lot of groypers misunderstand, right? Is that they kind of just begin and end with like, oh, they're Jewish, right? But it's like, right. Peter Thiel isn't Jewish. Peter Thiel has defense contracts and surveillance contracts that run through Israel. That's why they're Israel shills, right? Sure, Barry Weiss is a Jew and like all that ethno-religious stuff, you know, Alex Karp, whatever, but also think of the fact that it's like they're government rent seekers, they are defense contractors, and their contracts, many of them run through Israel. But I'm lucky that because their contracts run through Israel, they're never going to have a thing where they're going to be like, oh, we're actually Muslim today, so thankfully my faith is spared.
No, exactly. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people make the mistake of, and this is the whole low IQ anti-Semitism debate, where it's not that there isn't Jewish supremacy. You talk about this, I talk about this oftentimes in like church history and all that kind of stuff. But to equivocate it so simply with, oh, well, Peter Thiel, if he has a connection to Israel, he must be Jewish, right? And failing to recognize kind of the more nuanced, almost intention with his involvement there, it's like you're missing kind of the bigger picture, or you're trying to read in a narrative that almost if it's picked apart or holes are picked in it, you're going to actually do greater disservice to talking about Jewish supremacy than serving it, really, right? Because if you equivocate and you say, okay, Peter Thiel's a Jew, well, someone can then just go and be like, dude, are we smoking the Candace pack? Like, what's going on, right? That's patently false.
And we see the same thing even with the Epstein files, right? To kind of connect what we were just talking about earlier when you were saying about like you know, the kind of the way the Catholic thing and scene in New York was kind of presented was like almost kink adjacent, right? It's right. The same thing with it's almost the same thing with the kind of Epstein stuff and this kind of low IQ satanic panic, right? Where it's like, yes, is esotericism real? Do certain people at high levels really like buy into it? Absolutely. But for the vast majority of these people, esoterica and esotericism is like kink adjacent. And it's like you actually do yourself a disservice by only focusing on that aspect. It's like imagine like dedicating your life to studying and understanding someone's kink. It's like imagine like these people being just as obsessed with like a furry cult, right? They're like, oh well, they're bringing about the moon child and da 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 da, and that's why it's like, yeah, they're doing that because they're perverts, and it's like that's just like the most like transgressive, perverted thing that they could think of.
No, absolutely. It is kind of the most like perverted, transgressive thing they can think of. And it's not always this deeper intention. Sometimes it is with some of these figures, but some of these other figures, it is as simple, ironically, it's like the low IQ, high IQ spectrum thing, where I remember Sam Hyde one time was giving this spiel on like, the most you can ever get out of like low IQ people is like, it's all these corporations, bro. It's like, well, that is true to a certain extent, right? It's just money and interest. It goes no deeper than that. But at the same time, there can be people with a deeper intention too. I mean, I think Peter Thiel, when he gives weird spiels on the Antichrist and stuff like that, there is something deeper there, of course. But at the same time, he is a figure that it's like many people, he just wants to make money, right? And that's the Israel connection.
And a lot of those Silicon Valley types, like Peter Thiel, like Brian Johnson, like these people, fundamentally what they are transhumanists. So their interest in esotericism and whatever is because they have an interest in trying to see how long they can extend their own lives forever, right? So that's why like, Pariah the Doll is even in Man's World, not specifically like because they're doing this part consciously, but it's the same reason why Blair White is always there with Alex Jones, or Pariah is right there with BAP or whatever. It's because these trannies represent a stepping stone towards transhumanism, right? And that's their real motivation, right? They want to do all this biohacking. It's why Praxis and all these people want to set up these kind of like sovereign cities. And I think there's one in Honduras. They're talking about one in Greenland, whatever, because they want to have places where they could do like biohacking outside of the purview of the state. And it's because they want to, what they've been doing is they've been selling to like Silicon Valley VCs for the past 30 years that like, don't worry, uploading yourself to the cloud is just around the corner. Biohacking is like just around the corner, and they've been able to extract like billions of dollars on these like kind of snake oil salesmanship. But it's like that's what their real motivation is.
Exactly. And it's like almost when you get to the bottom of those whole connections with like the transhumanist element and the biohacking and stuff like that, you really almost see like the heart of human evil. I think that's the scary thing about it is a lot of people, even with
it does conflate with the real esotericism, right? It's because of their own, like their fight with the demiurge and all that stuff. It's like, that's where it's a way of understanding it, but it's not a totalizing explanation.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where, as we just touched on earlier, there is sometimes the simple, what you see is the case, but then there is that element of this depth of kind of Gnosticism, esotericism, right? They're doing almost these like rituals or what have you to try and ascend out of the material realm, but it's not totalizing and it doesn't encompass everybody. I think
many of them are not self-consciously doing it. Many of them are doing it in a kind of way where it's like, yeah, that's a way of understanding it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every individual actor is acting with this in mind.
Exactly. Two questions for you. One will lead into the next conversation. Vincent just asked in chat, what cigarettes are you smoking, Basil?
I am a Marlboro menthol guy.
Okay, that kind of goes hard.
I love a menthol. It's like an after dinner mint.
I've heard, I don't smoke, but at least when I've smelled it, I've thought the same thing. Like it gives kind of that like vapor rub type burn to it that makes it like so pleasant.
Yes, I'm very much a return to tradition, return to actually smoking cigarettes as opposed to like, I never got into vaping. I never got into like sucking on a USB. That shit always was so weird to me. I'm like, we're American. Tobacco is part of Marlboro. Like, come on, be a Marlboro man. Like,
it's literally like the cowboy Wild West brand. If you're not living up to that, are you even American at that point?
Sucking on a fucking USB. What are you, Chinese? Get out of here.
That's great. And the second thing I wanted to ask is, we've been going on that. I feel like we just kind of rolled in the show without giving you much of like an introduction of your background and who you are. But I think everyone wants to know, myself included, Basil, is like, What kind of inspired you to get involved in this in the first place? Like, give us an insight into who you are. We want to know.
So I started getting like politically aware in probably late the second half of college, and it was the 2016 election, right? The primaries going into that, and I was a Bernie Trump guy. I was kind of like fuck the establishment, whatever. Bernie in the primary, Trump in the general, and that was pretty much the beginning and end of it. And then I went to law school, and I was like really focused on that, and but it really so around 2017 more like 2018 2019 I was on Twitter, but as a lurker, like a locked account, didn't really have anything to say, and I was listening to like Red Scare, I was listening to Amy Therese. It was very much like that post-left type of vibe where it's like they hated the Democrats, they hated Carl Bajer and Chapo Trap House, but they kind of also existed in a kind of like symbiotic relationship with them, right? And it was around COVID that I kind of became radicalized, right? Because I made it through COVID pure blooded. And I'll never forget, like, I was working in the city, and I went to go get lunch one day, and they asked me for my vaccine. They asked, like, the papers, please. And I was like, I don't have, a vaccine passport. And they made me like wait outside. And it was like just seeing the people in the restaurant, like look and then look away. It was like a very radicalizing moment for me. Like, it was like, oh my God, these are like good Germans, basically, right? Like I'm the Jew here being shuttled off to a cattle cart. And that really radicalized me. And so I got online, and what I noticed was that these people that I was listening to, they had this huge blind spot when it came to the trans question and how it related to censorship, right? Because we were all being censored off of the vaccine. Like, you literally couldn't tweet the word vaccine. If you tweeted the word vaccine, you would get your account nuked. But I noticed that these people had this huge blind spot when it came to the trans question and how it related to the censorship regime, because the basis by which we're all censored online, whether it's online through terms of service or even in our workplaces through HR departments, is through the Civil Rights Act, right? Terms of service and HR departments and Title IX departments. What are we talking about when we say Title IX? What are we talking about when we say HR departments? We're talking about the compliance departments that comply with Title VI and VII of the Civil Rights Act. So the trans question relates to that, is that that is the most current in time expansion of the Civil Rights Act, right? So when the Civil Rights Act was originally passed, it was like for African American descendants of slaves or whatever, and it was expanded to include all racial minorities, and expanded to include women, then expanded to include sodomites, and expanded to now to include cross-dressers. And I was trying to, like, very politely at the time, I think back about it, I laugh at it, where it's like whenever it came up, I would like quote tweet Amy Therese, or I would quote tweet Anna Cashy and be like, great point, however, are you aware that this is da 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 da, like. And so, they liked me and then they hated me, whatever the case may be. But I really started to make a name for myself by being that guy who wouldn't shut up about trannies, right? Because that was how I was like framed. It's like, dude, it's not about fucking trannies. It's about the Civil Rights Act. Like, so a lot of people like Amy Therese or whatever kind of had this transition from like the post left to the dissident right. So I found myself in the dissident right, but fundamentally, like, nothing has changed in the fact that it's like my analysis has always been kind of Marxist, right? Like I said, I was like a Bernie guy. Like, I've read a ton of Marx, Lenin, Foucault. I read tons of Foucault in college. Like, I consider myself, like, I always tell people, even on the right, like, you should read Foucault from the right. You should read Marx and Engels and Lenin from the right. And you can do it. And it really does help inform your one's understanding of politics. So I've always considered myself an anti-left Marxist, and even in this dissident right sphere, a lot of what I talk about when I say like tech, defense, pharma, finance, the lumpen proletariat, Bonapartism, these are all Marxist terms, but it's how I analyzed politics as it exists. So I kind of, when we all made that transition to the dissident right, I was kind of on the periphery of the BAP sphere. They kind of, a lot of them liked me, but they treated me like the tranny that they fuck at Sovereign House, like some sort of like dirty little secret, And then when Trannygate, as we call it, when Pariah posted himself in Man's World happened, that kind of blew up. And then October 7th happened. It was further like revealing this type of these connections between Teal and Passage Press and BAP and Red Scare and all that stuff. So since then, I've been like, I'm very careful to be like, I'm not a Baptist. I'm not a Groiper. I am Basilian. I am doing my own thing. Like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But so that's kind of the long and short of how I got here.
Well, and that's kind of an interesting journey too, because growing up and being kind of a young person in high school at the time, I never understood like kind of the connection between the people on the left who had supported Bernie Sanders but felt really, really like slighted by essentially how Hillary shut out his campaign, right? He did have like a lot of popular support, but I remember how, and you can correct me on the details if I'm wrong, like there were polling places that were shut down to basically not allow you to vote for Bernie Sanders to be the Democrat, primary candidate, right?
Well, the best example of that was actually during the 2020 primary when it was Bernie and Biden, and it was right during the beginning of COVID. It was March, and it was the Illinois and Florida primary. And it was all of this confusion about like, oh, should people go to the polls? Should people be mailing in? Da, 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 da. And that's how they stole it from Bernie in 2020. But it was very much, yeah, it was this kind of coordinated. In 2016, it was with the whole super delegates thing and all of that type of stuff. But in 2020, it was actually a precursor to how they stole the 2020 election. The general election was like they used COVID to kind of manipulate the electoral system for their benefit.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too how from feeling kind of betrayed in that way, there were so many people from the left that said, dude, I'm going to just like vote Trump out of spite, because it's like, maybe he's had these divorces and he's kind of brash, saying like grab him by the pussy or what have you. But like Bernie, he's just kind of like an authentic figure, right? Like Bernie, I will give Bernie this, like, he has stuck by his guns even when it's been unpopular, right? And he hasn't shifted in really any of his positions. I mean, a lot of these Democrats, you go back even 10 years and they're like anti-gay marriage, or maybe they're opposed to abortion or what have you. But as the culture shifts, so do they. And I think there were a lot of people on the left at the time that recognized that. And Bernie seemed like the only figure that throughout sort of his entire tenure had the exact same positions he's always had.
That was true for a while, but I feel like even since 2020, I think he's completely capitulated, right? Because it's like back in 2015, there was this interview he did with Ezra Klein where he's like, open borders, that's a Koch brothers plan, right? And that's true. That is a kind of neoliberal, extreme libertarian type of idea, right? It's like, it's any type of, workers politics would understand that flooding the country with cheap labor is bad for the American working class, right? But since then, like, he doesn't talk about that really. That's an example of like, he's Jewish. Like October 7th was a huge revelatory moment, even for the left. Like now a lot of people on the left don't like him because he still does the thing where it's like Hamas is horrible and da 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 da. It's like, that's not even popular among his former base.
Well, and it really brought out kind of an older line of thought within the left where a lot of leftist figures historically, contrary to what people think, have been like anti-Semitic. Now, they've been maybe more anti-Semitic from almost a materialist standpoint rather than maybe a spiritual standpoint, like during the Dreyfus affair, Catholic figures saying that Dreyfus was guilty because of his Judaism. Whereas all these more materialist left-wing people have said, well, every single time we're trying to, have kind of a revolution, a change in workers' rights or what have you, it's who are the factory owners? Who are the politicians? Who are the people that are like co-opting, shutting down the revolution?
Right, those things go together, right? So like when I talk about tech, defense, pharma, finance, right, that's not the totality of capital, but that is the ruling faction of capital in the current moment, right? But it's like, take it one step further. What is the character of that class, right? Who are the CEOs of all the tech, defense, pharma, finance companies? Who are, that, and it's like, then those two things can work in tandem. It's like, obviously, like Mark speaks about this, like, and it does, a lot of it goes to around the 60s. I can't remember the name of the organization, but Caleb Maupin, actually, funnily enough, he's a fucking retarded leftist, but he talked a lot about this. That there was an organization in the 60s that basically made the left into this kind of like hippy-dippy bullshit Center for Cultural Freedom, I think it might have been. Something like that. It's like Center for Cultural Freedom, something along those lines. Nick has talked about it on the show as well, too, where it was like, that is the birthplace of what we think of like the DSA type of radical liberal left, as opposed to the kind of tradition of the kind of Stalinist Workers' Party type of thing. And it's like, that's why the left today is what it looks like. And it's like, that's why I'm like, I'm an anti-left Marxist. Back in the day, back when 2018, 2019, whatever, I would call those people libs in Marx face, right? They would call themselves Marxists, they would call themselves anarchists, they would call themselves whatever the case may be. However, when the push comes to shove, what they'll do is they'll all line up to vote for the Democratic candidate, and or they'll whip votes for the Democratic candidate by calling the opposition to the Democratic candidate a fascist, and you can't possibly support that, and da da da. So fundamentally just being a foot soldier for the Democratic Party. And that's why I say earlier, we were saying, like, you're not a Nazi, you're not a white nationalist, you're a racist right lib, because what we're talking about is saying every 4 years or every 2 years you're going to pull a lever, you're going to engage in liberal democracy on those bases, and that's totally fine. That's the world we live in. But it's like, and it's fun to LARP or whatever, but it's like, understand that you're LARPing.
Exactly. Well, and it's so funny because I remember even Twitter a couple years ago, they were getting cooked by, do you remember that one infographic where it's like, it looks like the gay pride thing, and it's got all the Marxist figures on it, but it's like the most like violent, homophobic, like Che Guevara being like, we need to execute these people. They were getting cooked by that, right? Like the Marxists who knew that were kind of unbothered because they're like, yeah, I've read their works. I know their biography and what they say. But as you said, the libs in Mark's face, it's like their whole world kind of came crashing down, right? And they felt like there was this disconnect between what they were saying about Marxist and sort of broadly left-wing thought and what they were actually seeing in terms of how some of those values played out.
Exactly. I used to always love, because like I said, like my issue was the trans question. It was like a very pertinent, a very potent kind of way of popping the bubble, because I'd be like, oh wait, so you're trying to tell me you're a Marxist, but you believe that the thoughts in someone's head are what makes them a man and woman and not their material body? Like, okay, like you're an idealist, you're a regressive, whatever. And it was like, eventually got to the point where it's like, I just can't even fuck it. Like, actually, all of you are my enemy. I'm not here to convince you. If you get it, you get it. You don't. Like, I just need to lend my voice or my energy or my time to whatever, defeats you, insults the earth of whatever created you.
And that's in a weird way, that's such a red pill too on people, is like, what converts people is sometimes knowledge. So if someone doesn't have knowledge and they're given knowledge, they might come around to your side and say, oh, damn, like I never considered that. But there is a class of people, like when you're criticizing the trans thing, you're like, dude, I've given you the facts. I've said everything I need to say. If you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. And at that point, I can't excuse your ignorance anymore.
Right. That's why I always said it's like that's the trans question is actually the dividing line or the boundary line of the left, right? Because every single person knows what a man and woman is. Every single person knows that a man can actually become a woman, that men can't give birth, etc. So if you can't say with your chest that men can't give birth, that men can't be women, that trans women are men, it's because you know that it will kick you out of that political coalition. And that's why it got to the point where they would start getting really annoyed with me. I'd be like, hey, really quick, can a man become a woman? And they would worm and they would squirm and, oh, why do you care? Oh, that's weird. Oh, I don't know enough. Oh, you don't know enough to know whether men can become women? Right. That's a dividing line. And that's why it's like now, 8 years later at this point, it's like, it feels like kind of like there is this kind of populist type of resurgence, especially after October 7th. It's like we got a dual wield litmus test, right? Because on the left where I come from, it's like, yeah, that trans question is a litmus test. You like what we're saying about Israel and blah 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 blah. Whoa. Real quick, can a man become a woman, Anna Kasparian? Can a man become a woman, Ryan Grimm? Are trans women men or women, Ryan Grimm? That type of thing. It's like, okay, if you can't they can't clear that hurdle, but if you can't clear that hurdle, get the fuck over there, right? And it's like on the right, it's like, whoa, really quick, is Barry Weiss an Israeli spy? Really quick, what is Jewish supremacism, right? So it's kind of like dual wielding these types of things, and really why both of those things are litmus tests is because those are the two vehicles by which liberals, whether left liberals or right liberals, seek to censor the discourse, right? The left liberals seek to censor the discourse by expanding the Civil Rights Act to include gender identity expression so that the bounds of acceptable discourse are further constrained, right? Free association is further eroded. The right liberals, like a Ron DeSantis or Governor Abbott in Texas,
Greg Abbott.
Greg Abbott, the right liberals, what they do to expand censorship is hate crime laws and anti-Semitism laws and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, that's why like you have to use both of those dual wield litmus tests. So that way it's like, you have to be able to you're asking the person who you're litmus testing to drop the weapons that they would use to censor you.
That's exactly it. It's one of those things where the litmus test determines who's really on your side and who is, again, a part of this big club, this limited hangout that you're not a part of. It's so interesting because the more and more you view it, intuitively, when you're first getting into politics, as you know, Basil, it's like you feel as if there's like a uniparty, right? You can't really put your finger on it. You can't really like touch any like specific element, but you know it's there. And, you know, there's a lot of almost who's the guy who like makes all the political cartoons, but they make them like wildly anti-Semitic and stuff like that. It's like Scott something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
They like meme his political cartoons or whatever. It's like Hillary Clinton, but then she's got like a massive butt, and they like change the text to be like, damn, back that ass up or something. But
well, you'll have to send me an example of that.
I'll definitely send you an example of it. It's hilarious, but it's funny because, you know, they'll make, it's almost like that political cartoon type thinking, right? Like, oh, they're both getting money from big corporations or the deep state or all these kinds of like catch-all terms. And in reality, you realize it's a lot of these different groups, but one of the largest one or the most universal one is it is the Jews, right? It is Israel. It is the Israeli lobby. And it looks different depending on what side it is. You know, if you're on the left, it's this whole thing about, you know, anti-Semitism and the way that Jews have participated in, you know, the gay rights movement or what have you. And if you're on the right, it's like, well, you can't criticize the chosen people because something about Christianity. And
yeah,
needless to say,
Israel will be blessed. Yeah,
exactly. And needless at the end of the day, who wins out of that culture war? We beat each other down. And then it's Tikkun Olam after that, right? After we're all dead and we've killed each other in the culture war, they reign supreme and they win out at the end of the day.
Well, so that kind of that feeling of the uniparty, like I do when I talk about it, I use the term called GOP left, right? And the reason why I say that is because like the left, I could see it and I understand it as a political coalition. Like I said, tech, defense, pharma, finance. You got the Democratic Party. You have the professional managerial class who's sponsored by these like NGO jobs and academia and whatever, and the lumpen proletariat elements that they support, like OnlyFans whores and migrants and all of these kind of unproductive elements of society, right? That is a cognizable, you know, perfectly understood, whatever, coalition. There is no real opposing coalition in the sense that like, sure, yeah, there's oil and gas and, you know, certain things here, whatever, but it's very hodgepodge, it's very diffuse, it's very disorganized or whatever. However, when you look at someone like, you know, take, you know, Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, or, you know, Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham, or Mitt Romney and Dan Crenshaw, they're all in the same political coalition, right? They're all funded by the same people. They all push the same lines, Liz Cheney, whatever, but they have an R next to their name, right? And it goes kind of, it's like that IQ graph, right? The low IQ is like, oh, they're all on this, it's all one big party and you're not in it. But like the high IQ is saying, like, yeah, no, they are in that political coalition, but just in the other bourgeois liberal party, right? There's no difference between them. And that's why I use the term GOP left, because I'm like, they're not just because they're in the other bourgeois party doesn't mean they're in a different political coalition. They're in the same exact political coalition, and that's why they're so often in lockstep when it comes to like wars or amnesty or tax cuts or whatever the case may be.
It's very true. And it almost feels like when you're seeing this kind of contemporary conversation have on either lefty podcasts or right podcasts, you know, I think like on the right, you know, the guys that are like, hey, don't mess with Texas. And they got the big old Texas shirt they got from Buc-ee's and the, you know, MAGA hat or what have you. And, you know, for the left, it'll be someone with a rainbow flag. They may be debating about these bills that say a Lindsey Graham and a Chuck Schumer are debating on the House floor. But then you go back for those who have kind of a more discerning mind, you go back and you see, wait, what's the other stuff they voted on? Oh, that's weird. Like giving Ukraine like billions of dollars, and both sides voted for it, right? And there was no disagreement. Okay, you know, Israel has this bill for Hellfire missiles, and wow, that's weird. Only Thomas Massie opposed it, and nobody else. And so at that point, it almost becomes like this thing of political theater in the culture war where they'll use these kinds of like bits and pieces with, you know, Trump saying mean things on Twitter or what have you, to, you know, drum up the goyim to focus on that stuff. Meanwhile, they're posting like bills right under our nose.
Yeah, that's the kayfabe of it all. That's exactly it. It's like it's a really really good way to understand what is presented to us, especially in mainstream media or whatever, is to borrow that wrestling term and just be like, yeah, this is kayfabe. It's like, because when it comes down to things like Ukraine, Israel, whatever the case may be, they're on the same page. That's why you see so many Republicans after the, Alex Petty or whatever, they're already like, oh, well, maybe amnesty, whatever. It's like, boom, you're on the same fucking team. It's all kayfabe.
It's so interesting in that way. And, something that came to mind that I kind of wanted to ask you about, it's a little bit of a pivot, but it's the same thing. I find it so interesting that in like the mid 2000s, pertaining to this uniparty and like the post 9/11 war, on paper, you and I should be enemies, right? Muslim and Christian, this kind of like grand clash of civilizations. Who's the guy who wrote that book? Like, I think it's literally called Clash of Civilization. Samuel Huntington, right? Where,
right.
That's the narrative going on. On paper, you and I should be enemies. And yet, I've loved seeing that break down. Like, I have such a good relationship even with IRL Muslims I know, and kind of the unity that we actually have in terms of our outlook and our vision for politics and really what we want the world to look like. It's not all the same, but it is at least trending in the same way in terms of politics or morals. And it's this same like, kind of coalition. It's this same kind of, lib right lib type coalition that has, I think, in some ways moved the chess pieces against each other to make us believe that we're enemies, right? That was the play right after 9/11.
Yeah, it had a peak after 9/11 and it really started to disintegrate a lot. And then it had another kind of second wind after October 7th. And you see, it's funny because you saw the same cast of characters. You had like Sam Harris, rear his ugly head, or Ayaan Hirsi Ali and these types of people. Because it goes to the same thing where it's like, okay, Europe is not America, right? America is not Europe. Europe has their demographic issues are heavily coded with Muslims, right?
Exactly.
But even then, the problem is not them as Muslims. The problem is that they're not European. It doesn't matter if an African is a Christian or they're a Reddit lib atheist. Ayaan Hirsi Ali is not Dutch just because she hates Islam, right?
Exactly.
So I only say that to say that there is a difference across the Atlantic with how Islam and Muslims are to be understood in terms of the politics. Here, we're such a small population. We assimilate so quickly. All of their kids are gay, whatever the case may be, whatever. And it's like, it is this kind of thing where it's like, it's the kind of Tommy Robinson type of thing where it's like they want you to believe that your enemies are Muslims, and so that way it's like, well, who's fighting the Muslims? Israel is, right? So Tommy Robinson's like, oh, we got to kick out all these Pakistanis, but we love the Indians. Or here, to take the American example, it's like, oh, we're going to talk all day every day about the Somalis in Minnesota or Dearborn, right? Because they're Muslim and it connects to that Israel connection. Meanwhile, it's like they're whipping you up for nothing. You think they're gonna fucking denaturalize them? They're all fucking here legally. We're not even getting rid of the 40 fucking million illegals. You think they're gonna fucking get rid of the legally here Somalis?
No.
But it's like they want to talk about that, but they never talk about the Indian invasion of Texas, or I live here in New Jersey, like the Indian invasion of New Jersey. Why? Because Indians are so philo-Semitic. Right. So it's like they want you to think that the issue is the Muslims because they want you to be like, well, Muslims are my enemy and Israel's fighting the Muslims, so Israel is my friend.
That's you hit it on the head, because I remember even going to your Twitter and seeing how you were talking about they'll make an expose of the Leering Center for the Muslims and touching on all that with the Somalis, but then it's like, we're literally having statues of Vishnu or whatever, fucked up deity Hindus believe in built in Texas right now, right? Communities that are being completely transformed. They look nothing like how they used to be. I mean, there was even that Tyler Oliveira video that just came out, even in Canada, where you have a small farming town that 20 years ago would have been majority white, now completely unrecognizable and looks like, Bangladesh. I mean, that's the real invasion going on. But again, it doesn't serve their narrative. So they want to kind of rile us up and make us focus on this one issue that almost gives us the plausibility of being red pill, tapped in. We've got all the right political takes, but it's just a smokescreen. It's just pulling the wool over our eyes.
The thing is too is like for us who are more critical of Jewish supremacism and Jewish power, right? We will never counter signal someone being like the Somalis are scammers. We got to get them out of here. We're like, absolutely, fucking get them the fuck
Yes.
out of here. Yes, and
Yes, and
right, but they say no, this, no, this, and we're like no, yes, and this, and they're like so. And it's funny because the way that they frame it, like someone like a Chris Rufo does this all the time, where it's like they frame it as though we are obsessive about Israel and Jewish supremacism and Jewish power, where we're like, no, we are inclusive of that and this. What you want to tell us, don't focus on that, focus on this other thing, which ultimately ends up redounding to the benefit of Jewish supremacism.
It's 100% the case, and you kind of see this online. I even remember like 2 years ago, Captive Dreamer. One of the things that kind of red pilled me on his whole deal with the Bapsphere was how dismissive he would be about Jewish power. Oh well, the Talmud is this like old book, and only a couple rabbis read it, right? Not a big deal. Or oh well, Jews are such a small population. The real issue you should be focusing on is illegal immigration, and it gives enough like plausible deniability to kind of appear like they're on your side, like we're all on the same team, kumbaya. But in reality, you're having sort of this counter front that's still leading to the same result you're trying to fight against. It's like, okay, fine. Let's say tomorrow out of Dearborn, Michigan, we kick out all the Somalis. Great. I'm all for that. Yes, but we're only getting the yes. And then if we start talking about, well, what are the Indians doing in Silicon Valley and what are they doing in Texas? Suddenly there's a big problem talking about that.
And the thing is, especially with Martin too, with Captive Dreamer, is what he does is what a lot of those Bapsphere people do is they talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? So one day it'll be with Jews you win. Then the next day, I remember he one time had a crash out at like 2 a.m. where he was like, these Zionists are anti-white and blah 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 blah. So it's like you say one thing today, you say the opposite thing tomorrow, so that the third day you can point to either one of those and claim that you've been consistent the whole time, and it's very disingenuous. And this kind of goes back to a LARP thing, right? Where it's like, I have an inordinate amount of, no one loves white men more than I do. I promise you that, right? No, white men don't love themselves as much as I love them, and it really kills me. But part of this whole like LARP thing, especially when you get into like the white nationalist LARP and the Nazi LARP or whatever, it's like, I'm American. Okay, I don't care what anyone fucking says. In the real world, I'm American.
Right.
I was born and raised here, right? Martin is Canadian. Ren is British. Costin is Romanian. Right? None of these people are American. But when you're lost in the sauce of like, oh, I'm a white nationalist. Actually, Martin's more American than you brownoid, and Costin is more American than you because he's white, brownoid. It's like, dude, you're lost in the sauce, and what you're doing is you're giving cover to these subversive foreigners who are giving you the fucking runaround on behalf of. And the thing is, like, when you're on the level of someone like Martin or Ren, it's not because like you're getting fucking money, the $7,000 check in your pocket. It's because you're friends with Jonathan Kieferman, who is getting a check. You're friends with Bap, who is getting a check. So it's like you get to be like, I don't care about you, like this or that. I'm not running cover for the Jews. Like, but you know what lines you can't cross, or you're allowed to cross them because you're the hatchet man. But you know you'll defend those guys who can't. You'll defend Jonathan Kieferman, who's on the show on the Blaze with fucking with Chris Rufo, right? The Blaze is fucking Glenn Beck's pro-Israel thing. Chris Rufo's Manhattan Institute is funded by Susie Shafar and all of these other people who are rabid Zionists. Those are the lines that they can't cross. But you come here on the timeline and sell based Nazi, white nationalist, whatever, but you'll circle the wagons around Chris Rufo and you'll circle the wagons around Jonathan Kieferman, who are pushing this kind of bullshit, right-lib bullshit.
Absolutely. I mean, how many like lolly Black Sun edits will surf, right? It's Martin, right? Post and giving kind of this illusion of I fucking hate when they use the term like poster, like these like old 4chan terms that haven't been used for like 10 years. It's like, dude, like we get what you're trying to do. You're putting on the skin suit of like right-wing, far-right internet culture, but then exactly that. You'll circle the wagon for all these figures that by all ostensible means don't embody like anything that you're saying. I mean, it's so funny because even Bronze Age Pervert, you probably remember this tweet just the other day. It was like a couple weeks ago. You know, he's talking about, I think, the Vance campaign, and he's saying, you know, the rhetoric about race, it's just not helpful. You know, yes, we all know it's true, but we can't really speak on that issue, and it's tough, right? Almost trying to come off
but
like
Basil's brown.
say
but Basil's brown.
Oh,
but
but
Basil's
Brown. Exactly.
right?
So that's got to invalidate everything you say. I can't listen to you anymore, right? But it's so funny because what did he do for like the past few years? Oh, Groypers are brown, Basil's brown, race is this super important element. You know, he was willing to use this sort of like racialist type signaling. But then in the next phase of the plan, when suddenly we're gearing up for Vance and he's got an Indian wife and he doesn't fit with sort of the, you know, white supremacist, white nationalist view, well, now we have to pivot and we have to change the information to it's just not that popular. So yeah, we can admit it that it's true. It's true. You go on and, you know, I'm putting your backpack on and walking off to school. Yes, you are a base Nazi. But then you just turn your back on everything you claim to support for like the past 4 years.
Exactly. And this has been the modus operandi since the beginning, right? It's been this take the cultural output of the Anon sphere from 4chan and whatever and repackage it and sell it to you, right? So what they do is they say, oh, well, Vance follows Captive Dreamer and Vance follows Howling Mutant. Look, he's listening to us. We're influencing him. But it's actually the exact inverse, right? They are not influencing Vance. What they're doing is they're taking all of that cultural output from the Anon sphere for the past 10 years and can try and convince their audience that whatever Vance does is based and red-pilled and TND and whatever the case may be. I mean, go look at Ren's timeline. Rawag Nationalist timeline is literally just 4chan post, Reddit post, whatever. There's no actual output there, and it's really obvious once you see it for what it is, because it's like the thing is like even their appreciation for Trump is not real appreciation for Trump. It's just Trump as a Trojan horse for Vance. And that's why it's like this thing feels like it's kind of like the wheels are falling off and they're kind of like trying to hold it together as much as they can, because the whole point of it from the beginning, from 2017, 2018, 2019, was to get Vance into office. So all of this is in service of that.
It's exactly that. And I see a super chat here. Let's probably do, if you guys want to send in super chats, we will read all of them. Let's do that at the end, because I mean, Basil's over here cooking. I can't interrupt this guy's flow. That would be criminal at that point. It's exactly that. It's exactly that element of the wheels are starting to fall off. I think a lot of people are pointing out like Vance isn't this Nazi super soldier. It's like he was a never Trumper who, by all intensive purposes, was like grown in a vat, and everyone's picking up on that real quick. A question I had for you, Basil, because I wanted to know your experience with it and this kind of media market and like grand meta political narrative. Before even I knew of any of the BAP stuff, I knew of his book, right? Bronze Age Mindset. And I remember I had like a friend, gosh, this must have been like 3 or 4 years ago, like trying to recommend it to me. And intuitively, like I wasn't interested because, you know, you have someone go up to you and it's like, no, you don't get it, bro. He's this pagan bodybuilder. He's going to tell you how to like deal with women and that kind of stuff. And it's like, already I was on my Christian track. I'm like, why the fuck am I going to read a pagan bodybuilder? Like, Christians and Muslims, I think we've always shared that mutual disdain or hatred for pagans. And it's like, how does this apply to my life? What was your like initial interaction with like the kind of thought of like Bronze Age Mindset, that book, and kind of what it represented like as this kind of incursion or subversion into like our culture of the dissident right?
So, like I said, I'm not a good Muslim. So for me, I was like, Handsome Thursday, Physique Friday. I love this. But it's like, but the thing is too, is like, even that is was and is so subversive, because when you think about it, like what we know now is like, these are a bunch of soft-bodied, effete, academic whatevers. And what they did was they convinced, the whole point of the sphere is to target disaffected right lib white American men and convince them that Peter Thiel's interests, Mark Andreessen's interests, David Sachs' interests are their interests, right? So what they do is they feed them the slop of TND and, you know, human biodiversity and blah, 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 just to corral them and be like, but when October 7th happens, like, whoa, 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 Hamas is not Bronze Age, Israel is Bronze Age, whatever. And it's this kind of like bait and switch type of thing. And what happens with like the Physique Friday and Handsome Thursdays is they end up getting these this right lib disaffected white men to post their bodies like prostitutes, which listen, I love it, but the point is to be like they use them as kind of branding. They use them as PR and say, this is what we're about. This is the aesthetic. This is the vibe. And it's like those Handsome Thursday men and Physique Friday whatevers don't know what the fuck is going on behind the scenes. They don't know what the fuck. They just think that they're engaging in a fun subculture, a fun fandom, a fun whatever. But it's like it confuses a fandom with politics, right? So when Tranny happened and October 7th happened, you had these like grown men, these articulate, maybe educated, whatever men crying. I remember being in a Twitter space of them crying, being like, BAP saved my life. If it wasn't for BAP, I would have been a groiper. It would have been, and it's like, you are being led by the nose by these people. And what it was like, imagine telling a Harry Potter fan, being like, hey, really quick, just so you know, Hogwarts isn't real. And J.K. Rowling is a British woman who is whatever, and them freaking out and be like, no, magic is real, and I am going to be a wizard, and I'm going to, that type. It's like, dude, you're in a fandom, and it's a malicious, this type of malicious fandom that is trying to get you to be against your own interests. So it's like, I liked Physique Friday and Handsome Thursday, and I do like that kind of like academic approach to it. But once I knew what it was like I really have a big disdain for it, because what I see it as is this type of like illusory type of scam for right-wing white men. And it's like, no, I need you to not pretend like I need you to not think you're a Nazi, not think you're a white nationalist, not think you're a Bronze Age finalist. And it's, it's a thing what you mentioned earlier with like the Son and Rad edits and the lolly posting and whatever. It's like they want their audience to say how much they love Hitler and how much they love lolly and cunny and all of these like Son and Rad bullshit. And they want you to compromise yourself.
Exactly.
So that if you get doxxed, your life is ruined. When Jonathan Kieferman gets quote unquote doxxed, it's because he has this kind of golden clout parachute. He was already patronized through Passage Press and whatever for his basedness online. So when he gets doxxed, nothing happens. But when you, random Baptist number 347, get doxxed and all of your ironic, wink wink, cunny posting and lolly posting and Son and Rad edits come out, you just lose your job and it's on to the fucking next one. And you've done what? You've given your body to them literally because you posted your physique, and you've given your mind and your money and all this stuff to them. And it's like, for what? To get JD Vance elected? Because what? He's going to deport his wife? Get the fuck out of here.
It's a total illusion. And it really does seem to tap into, it's so funny. Like I see this figure as you're mentioning this like disaffected white man. You know who exactly I'm thinking of, who's like the perfect goy, who's the perfect model of exactly what you're talking about? I think you know. John Doyle.
Oh, yeah.
John Doyle. Literally this like nerd, this kind of like insecure figure and stuff like that, totally very, very bothered by his own self-image, and he needs to kind of like project outwards that it doesn't bother him, and actually I'm this like based bodybuilder. It's exactly that. It's all these sorts of like Jewish supremacist JD Vance type people being like, no, actually this movement that's going against Jewish power, they don't want to win. They're not on the winning team. You got to get on the winning team, white man, or you're going to be left in the dust.
Snake your friend Nick. You got to snake your friend Nick and start sucking our dick and blah, 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 blah. And then we'll put you onto the Blaze where you get maybe like 1.5 times the views as Basil and Benny after 2 months. Like, okay, we'll see you in 6 months, bitch. We'll see. Like, that's the thing. It's like, because there's no there. And really what someone like John Doyle's job is to kind of gaslight boomers on Facebook to tell them like, oh no, the young ones are still with the Republican Party. We're still with Trump, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, they do that on the clips, do that on Facebook. Meanwhile, they're on Twitter be like, please, Stephen Miller, save us. Stephen Miller, save us. And it's like, and the thing is like John Doyle, it's like, that is a good example of it. But the thing that comes to my mind is like, actually like normal, handsome, ripped white men who were like have an interest in reading and philosophy and thinkers and whatever who get caught up in it. That's what really makes me sad. Like they have normal day jobs, they have whatever, and they think that like they get all the timeline and they're like, yeah, Basil is brown. It's like, dude, I'm here because I love you. I'm here trying to serve you, and you were like, you are here fucking like bending over for these fucking Jewish academics. Go fuck yourself. And it's like, whatever. I still love you. Do you have a Cash App? Let me help.
You're literally your buddy from The Incredibles, and you're looking at their giant portrait. They're just rippling muscles, and you're like, all I wanted to do is to help. And what did you say to me? It's like, fly home, Basil. You're brown, right? It's ridiculous. It's one of these things where they think they're joining the team that's going to support them and uplift them when the chips are down or what have you, or when kind of the threshold of freedom starts to clamp down with the rise of AI. But in reality, they're just useful idiots. They're just useful idiots, and it's
first people.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say. They're going to be the first people that they turn Palantir on. That's the saddest part.
Yes.
Because as they realize what this is, as more and more of their audience realize what this is, they're going to naturally go to Nick, right? And so who are those people that they idolize going to that attack? Their former audience. It's the most sick and twisted thing. It's so dark when you think about it.
It's so completely dark because, you know, unlike being a normal useful idiot too, it's like these are guys who, as you said, want to read, want to better themselves, want to work out and all that. Like it's not some, you know, trailer park neo-Nazi or something like that. Someone who legitimately wants to aspire to greatness and could otherwise be capable of that, but they're totally being used in this greater plot that they're going to be stabbed in the back by. It's horribly sad.
I see such pathetic behavior. I see people who are like, BAP is my friend, because they're like in a group chat with 100 people and BAP is in it, and will sometimes like once a month and come in and share like a picture of a potato and be like, is this potato okay? And they'll be like, BAP is my friend. And this is like a really important lesson for people to take away, where it's like, if you are not on the Amarna forums with them, if you are not on the Sallow forums with them, you are not their fucking friend. If you don't have Costin's number, he is not your friend. If you have not broken bread with him, he is not your friend. And it's this type of thing where it was very evident during Training Gate, because it's like, I knew what the reality was. Like, I knew that, like, okay, they sponsored this fashion show and that's why they put the pariah in the magazine, blah, 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 blah. But what they did is they had their top guys. They had people like Zero HP Lovecraft. They had people like Josh Reiner. They had people like all these people like who are like their top generals basically coming out on the timeline and lying, because they lied to them and they said, oh no, Astral put it in without us knowing. We don't know who Pariah is. We don't know what Dime Square is. And I was like, dude, I said Zero HP. I was like, they have you. You think these are your friends? They have you coming out into the timeline looking like a fucking fool, lying for them.
Yes.
And this is like a really, really important thing. And it's like, this is actually something I've taken from, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like from the Anon sphere, like Fren, F-R-E-N. You know, as opposed to friend.
Exactly. Yeah. Where they'll post the Pepe Apu edits and stuff, or not edits, but images. And they're like, good morning, friend. It's like, what is this?
But you know what? I will say, I've really adopted the friend distinction, right? Where I'm like, there's tons of people we talk to all the time. We the DMs, whatever, or reply guys, whatever, and we're friendly with them. We're friendly, F-R-E-N-L-Y. Until someone has broken bread with you in real life, you have their number, you know their name, blah, blah, blah. That's not your friend. And that's what you should, especially when someone's a take seller, right? Someone like you or I who's a take seller, we're going to have tons of like reply guys, whatever, fans of ours, whatever the case may be, our patrons or whatever. But it's like, dude, if you are not my friend, you are not my friend. You are not BAP's friend. You know, Nicola, Fisted by Foucault is BAP's friend. Second City Bureaucrat is BAP's friend. Thomas 777 is BAP's friend. They're from the Amarna forums. They know each other's name. They know each other's phone number. They've been in real life together. And that's why when I see like these second, third, fourth, fifth tier fans be like, fuck you, Basil. How dare you say this? BAP is my friend. He saved my life. It's like, dude, I want more for you. I want more for you than you want for yourself.
And you're completely missing the forest through the trees. It's like, it's trying to live vicariously through an influencer's life. But what's more dangerous about it is a normal influencer like you or I or whatever. Okay, conceivably, what's the worst thing that we do? We act friendly on the timeline. Someone DMs us and we're like a huge jerk in the DMs, right? That's the extent of it, probably. these people, they're not just normal influencers. It's like they will ruin your fucking life. You know, like they'll make you throw everything away and step over you.
Perfect example, when that whole thing with Trading Gate was happening, Astral would be like, Basil, don't go too hard, because Jonathan Keeperman and Grill and the people from Passage Press, they will call my wife and tell her how I cheat on her. Please don't go too hard, right? Those are his friends. And honestly, I'm only saying that now because I've seen him in group chats talking shit about me. So I'm like, go fuck yourself. I was fucking nice to you.
Exactly.
But like, you know, it's a dirty game. Entertainment is a dirty game. The fucking media market is a dirty game. But that type of shit where it's like, I didn't fucking know you from nobody, and I still treated you with more respect than your fucking friends did. They were gonna throw you under the bus like that.
It's so nasty. Like, you know, you're this guy who you don't even know him that well, and it's like only until he spited you did you reveal information like that. But it's like these are the people you're supposed to trust, and they want to collapse your entire personal life. I mean, you know, as you were talking, oh, go ahead, Basil.
I was gonna say, and if you're just a random fan, right? You're just like random avatar, statue, Avi, whatever. You're in the other group chat with them, and it's like you're gonna be like, "Well, fuck you, Basil. You don't know me from nobody, but you hate me because you think you're friends with Bap and Costin and Red and whatever." It's like fucking retarded. It's so stupid.
It's so retarded, and I guess a question I have for you, because I know a little bit about like Dasha and the Red Scare scene, how they were like post left, and then they almost did this whole like trad LARP type thing. What can you tell us about like that whole kind of side of everything? Because I know about the BAP sphere due to the fact that it's like these are the people I interact with, but I don't really interact with like Dasha or any of those people. Although I know they have a lot of influence. Could you speak to that or tell us about that?
Well, like we said earlier, where it's like the BAP sphere and Dime Square were two wings of the same patronage network, right? So it's like if you were on the right, you were getting introduced to BAP. If you're on the post left, you were getting introduced to Red Scare and all the stuff downstream of Dime Square, like, you know, Moldovan Citizen and what all of those people and Pariah and all that kind of stuff. And so, like I said, back in 2018, they kind of had this kind of antagonistic but ultimately symbiotic relationship with the left, where they're like constantly shitting on each other. The kind of the way that they treat Will Stansel now. So what was happening was, as they kind of came together, it was BAP who was like, no, these girls are good. We need the girls because the girls are selling our message to normies or whatever the case may be, because he wasn't going to tell his audience that like we're on the same, me and Red Scare are on the same take, you know, we're in the same patronage network. They were like, oh no, look, they're saying what we like, blah, blah, blah. So what happens is Red Scare does this thing where their audience of cultivated leftists will call them fascist for saying like, oh, you know, whatever, BLM is a scam, something very tepid and whatever. And they use those bona fides of being called a fascist to justify when BAP is like, no, these girls are good. These girls are good. So before I knew that these guys were confirmed like on the same team back in like 2021, 2022, I would DM BAP and be like, listen, I know who these girls are. They fail the trans question litmus test. They push trannies. They're leftist. It doesn't matter what they're saying. They're leftist. And he would pretend like he doesn't know who they are, like fully like lying. And it's like, so now what we see is this kind of, there's no separation between them. So like, during Tranny when I was like going hard on the timeline, I never mentioned BAP. I kept BAP away from it, but BAP came on the timeline to accost me and to reprimand me and be like, why are you being mean to them? It's like, of course. So what it is with them is that they use the bona fides that they get of like being kind of edgy leftists and having people to their left calling them fascists to sell themselves to the BAP sphere audience, right? And be like, oh, well, we're on your team and we're on your side and whatever. And a good story about that is like, so after they got me booted from that event and the whole Tranny thing, right? For years, they would tell anyone. It was Anna, Dasha, the perfume nationalist, this girl Monica, this guy Filthy Armenian. They would tell anyone behind the scenes, and it's an entertainment industry. It works on the same principles, like blackballs, smear campaigns, that type of thing. They would tell anyone behind the scenes, oh, Basil's crazy, block Basil, a full on blackball campaign. eventually got to the point where one day, maybe a year ago, Anna Screen was like, "Oh, you can tell a person's a good person not by what they say on the timeline, but how they behave behind the scenes, whether they're slandering people and whether they're whatever." I was like, "Oh, I quote tweeted her. I was like, that's real fucking rich coming from you, bitch, because I know we both know what you've done. Like, I've seen this fucking screenshots, I've seen the fucking group chats, whatever, whatever, whatever." And she's like, "I am scared of you. You've approached me twice in public and da, 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 da," and eventually had one of her lemmings dox me, email my job, email every partner at my firm, email all the attorneys at my firm, try to get me fired. And it's like, for what? Because I said that you run cover on the trans question, that you are pushing trannies on the right. Like, what the fuck are we doing? So it's just important to understand. It's like they are the left branded side of the same Teal, Andreessen, David Sachs, Barry Weiss patronage network.
And it totally makes sense too, because if BAP is to men this kind of image, or the Bronze Age pervert sphere is this image of like strength, virility, like you're becoming this strong, enlightened man by being a part of it, it makes sense that they'd want to bring in the female wing. And what the kind of Red Scare audience always gave me this impression, the like hot girl Twitter accounts where it's like a bunch of like winged kind of seraphim type references and they're like Twitter handle and stuff like that. It always gave me that impression of like trying to appeal to those kinds of women, like the women that are like, oh, it's like so hard to find a good man, and then they're talking about like BPD, like being BPD like exactly, like the art hoe type element. And in that way, I think they understood that they needed the sort of like female sex appeal to kind of further corral people in, because most of these guys are trying to convince, it's like, yeah, BAP's gay, but like most of the dudes he's trying to take under his wing are not. You need to bring the huzz. You need to bring the hose. If there's no huzz, how are you going to get these guys on your side?
That was the whole conceit of like Dime Square and Sovereign House, was like Nick Allen and future Moldovan Citizen being like, we're going to introduce the kind of libertarian tech money to art hose, and we're gonna have events here and put them together. It's like, turns out they're all fucking trannies and it's all fucking fake and gay and bullshit. But it's like, even then, it's like that Sovereign House is the place that they would all meet, but it's like that's done now. But now Nick Allen has this new thing called Rain, and and they're basically trying to do the same thing where it's like, connecting libertarian tech people, Curtis Yarvin enjoyers with BPD art hose.
I'm almost in awe sometimes as you're saying this. It seems like this is a movie, right? It seems like this is like a 90s movie or what have you, an action film where like Die Hard 2 or something, where you're finding out it's like, oh, this military guy is actually betraying everything, and he's got this greater intention and these greater connections to try and like bend the world to his will, or bend the government to his will. But in reality, you realize that this network kind of has this like deeper, more sinister intention of wrapping in all these content creators together and making it seem like it's organic growth.
And the content creators themselves are just cheap prostitutes. They just want a media career, right? So it's like, they just want like, oh, I want to be with Julia Fox at the Elena Velez fashion show, or I want to be with Chloe Cherry and Peter Vack and Dasha at the HBO launch, or I want to be with Anna Kachina at the Pornhub party, or whatever the case may be. It's like, those are all just like those are all actual things. But it's like there's this huge HBO connection. That's why people put up with Anna a lot, because it's like Anna and Dasha had the ear of some people in Hollywood, like especially through HBO and Chloe Cherry and Julia Fox. And then one of the subsidiaries, this guy, Perfume Nationalist, this piss play diaper fetishist guy, had the ear of Mike White from White Lotus, or Mike White, who was like the first season of White Lotus, the the Sydney Sweeney character was a write-in for Anna and Dasha. Like they were reading Paglia, they were talking to Vocal Fry. Like he specifically name dropped them in I think it was the Hollywood Reporter. It was specifically was like, yeah, that was a Red Scare write-in.
Dang.
So there's this HBO connection. There's this Chloe Cherry, Euphoria, Succession, whatever.
I didn't realize even the HBO connection. I'm hearing this for the first time. I mean, I knew that there was some. I mean, with everything that Dasha had going on after she got like canceled and fired when having Nick on, I knew there was a Hollywood connection, but I didn't know it was like the whole HBO Euphoria element. I mean, that show, I hate that show, but it's like it's so influential on our generation. It's like that's making a large wave, right? And that's real power. That's real influence.
So like Chloe Cherry, the porn actress, was on that show, right? Chloe Cherry was also in. Have you heard of the podcast TrueAnon?
Yes, I'm positive I have.
Yeah, so TrueAnon had a promotion for this board game that they made based on January 6th, and Chloe Cherry was part of that promotion, right? Chloe Cherry and Julia Fox were in Charlie XCX's music video. Charlie
Right.
XCX had a song that was literally based on Dasha, right? So and then Julia Fox was also at the Elena Velez fashion show. So there's this very discreet, like, and then it's like Peter Vack was also in a movie with Dasha and Chloe Cherry. Peter Vack was in the Dominican Republic for a Praxis retreat, right? Praxis and Arkham and all these crypto coins, and that's why like they had like Dasha coin, Anna coin, all of those shit coins like Trad coin, Trend coin, Dasha coin, Anna coin, whatever. Those are all just like how they funnel money to each other, right? It's like it's not about rug pulling their audience. It's about, hey Anna, we got this coin, we're gonna put money into it. You take out the money, and then whatever happens to the coin happens to the coin. But that way, it's like Anna could when Nick was on a Red Scare, and he's like, "Did you get money from Peter Thiel?" She's like, "No." It's like, yeah, no, she never got a check signed by Peter Thiel, but she gets money through inflated Patreon subscribers and Anna coin and whatever the case may be. So it is just like this very like spider webby type of connections, corkboard, red string, Silvio Pepe type of thing.
Well, and at that point, I mean, I guess as we were talking, I was kind of thinking of this grander plan, and I think I know the answer, but for someone like you who is mapped out the spider web, so to speak, the red string web, after they get Vance elected, right, in their perfect world, they get Vance elected, he gets in power. What do you think is like the ultimate sort of architecture that they want to build? What do you think is their end goal, their grand plan? Like, what would success look like to them?
So for the funders, for Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Sachs, even Elon Musk to a degree, their goals are twofold. One is to continue to funnel money to themselves through defense contracts, or Palantir doing the IRS, being the software for the IRS and for the DHS and whatever. They want all of those government contracts, billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's their. And then secondly, for them, it's to keep crypto markets as unregulated as possible, right? So that they keep doing these Solana-backed shit coins and funnel their money around and blah 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 blah. For Passage Press, it's because they want to be like kind of Vice 2.0. They want to get Passage TV picked up by HBO or whatever the case may be, right? For the rest of them, for everyone else like Anna, Dasha, Ren, Bap, whatever, it's just to get it to advance their media careers, right? They want, okay, so say Passage Press, for example, gets picked up by HBO and they do Passage TV. Well, they want one of their shows to be Costin doing a travel show. That his media career is good advanced. So they want, Anna and Dasha to be part of Megyn Kelly's, a podcast network or whatever the case may be. It's just for them to advance their media careers. So for the top funders, it's government contracts and crypto markets. For the take sellers, because take sellers are just media actors, it's just to advance their media career and just have a job in media.
Well, and it seems like they're in some ways like replacing kind of the older generation of media personalities, because someone like Anthony Bourdain, right, who passed away, well, he was the travel show guy. So for like Bronze Age pervert to come in, Constant to come in and almost act as this like surrogate figure that takes up the mantle, not exactly the same, of course, but takes up the mantle and becomes the next household name. It's like they have advanced their media career. They've become a household name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's like it's not and the thing is, it's like what's nefarious about it is that all of that is predicated on selling to their audience that we're gonna kick them out, we're gonna do TND, it's gonna be a golden age, blah 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 blah. And meanwhile, they'll advance their media careers, the funders will get their defense contracts and their government contracts and their rent seeking, and they'll just have infinity H-1Bs, and we're gonna get amnesty, and you'll just get shafted, and then whatever the case may be. So it's like it's not like demonic, it's about understanding that that's how it works. That's the conflation of media and politics, and that's it's not some sort of like grand demonic conspiracy. It's just like that's just what it is.
Well, it's similar to how like Google and Facebook and X and all these platforms changed their messaging when they could tell that the air in the 2024 election was heading Trump's direction, right? So suddenly Mark Zuckerberg becomes an MMA bro, kind of similar to that whole Joe Rogan type sphere. And he's more free speech, more open to free speech. Whereas in the Biden era, he was more about censorship and the kind of SJW thing. When that started to die off, I think these media personalities knew, okay, we have to say the TND thing and the Black Sun edits and the, hey, good morning, friend type posts on social media. But as you just said, Basil, like once that is kind of over, once that phase is over, they're going to shut up about it. It's not going to be that anymore. And they'll make some bullshit excuse.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, it's like when we think about it as tech, defense, pharma, finance, right? Prior to 2020 or 2018 or 2017, or whatever the case may be, it was finance in the driver's seat of the blue car of the Democratic Party, right? With the election of Obama and with Biden as his vice president, the senator for BNA, whatever. It was finance in the driver's seat of the blue car. As we approach the 2024 election, they kind of did Chinese fire drill, and it was tech in the driver's seat of the red car. It's the same coalition. It's just they switched parties, whatever. And it's also very important where it's like every Trump election has been kind of like a red pilling moment where an influx of people come into the discourse, right? When it was 2015, it was like the whole alt-right scene and blah, 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 blah. With 2020, it was like people like me and a lot of people like me who got radicalized through COVID. If you were not radicalized by COVID, I don't fucking trust you. Right? Because all these people, these tech people came in 2024, and what were you doing during COVID? You were censoring the discourse. You were right there with the left. Like, I don't trust. And 2020 to me and COVID was the last helicopter out of Saigon. If you came here after that, I don't trust you.
You posted that on Twitter, and I completely agreed, because what do we see even with like, an issue that we're both passionate about, right? Like the Jewish supremacist issue. If you got red pilled around the time of COVID, you were probably in the days where there weren't these grand documentaries, there weren't these grand videos. So you had to really do your own research. You had to really read books, read even like kind of maybe Oxford Press literature or what have you, and weave the line to figure out like what's the Jewish supremacist narrative, right? After that period of COVID, that 2020 date, what do we see? We saw like the rise of Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, all these people that it's like, okay, fine, maybe they're
October 7th. Like
exactly.
COVID and then October 7th. October 7th, it was like, okay, now everyone can talk about Jewish. Listen, I'll be so fucking honest. So for me, before October 7th, if I ever had to talk about Jewish supremacism or whatever, it was labored. It was a lot of throat clearing. It was a lot of like very uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it, but right. And it's like, but for me, it's like, I'm Muslim, right? So it's like, for me, I joke with my normie sister. I'm like, we're anti-Semitic. She's like, no, we're, because she's very normie. She's like, no, we're not. What are you talking about? She's like, they're the real racists. They're whatever. I'm like, sis, what are the trees and the rocks going to do on the last day, on the day of judgment? They're going to be like, there's a Jew behind me. He's hiding. There's a Jew behind me. It's like, that is in its essence anti-Semitic, right? It's like that even with actual Christians, right? When you're like, the Jews are a Christian heresy, that is inherently anti-Semitic. Like it is this type of like thing where it's like, it's like, so even before October 7th, even though I never had a problem doing it, it was this very belabored thing. I was very uncomfortable doing it. Whereas like after October 7th, it became very easy because people like Nick blew a fucking hole open in the discourse and allowed a lot of us to speak more freely and have this kind of breathing room, because it was like, okay, no, what we're talking about. It's not about hating anyone. It's not about this. It's about understanding the reality of like this kind of like subversive fifth column in our own empire.
Well, and it was so sad at that time because I remember I was still in college around the time of COVID and even a little bit post-COVID. And it was exactly what you were saying. It was very labored. I mean, I remember, like, if I talked to anyone about the Jewish question, because I didn't want to get thrown out my university, you locked the door. It was like phones in the microwave, like, and you really had to shut the curtains and shut the blinds. And I think the reason why is because Charlottesville afforded especially the Jews a sort of plausibility to say, anytime you talk about the JQ, you're like Heather Heyer running her over with the car. It's they will not replace us, Tiki Torch. And so for those of us who were up to snuff on it, but of course we weren't going to advocate for violence against him or whatever. It's just like,
Right.
I don't want him to run my country. We had to kind of go in a very covert means. After October 7th, the doors were blown wide open. Everyone and anyone can talk about it now. But the problem with that is you get these figures now like Candace and Carol that are trying to corral it into this just batshit insane stuff. I mean, fucking Sumerian time travel. Like, what are we talking about?
They're actually pagan, Khazarian, Frankish, Freudian. It's like, okay. All right. I saw Dugan do this recently too. He's like, thank God for, what did he say? He said, thank God for somebody because he exposed the globalist, Western, literally like 7 different euphemisms. I was like, dude, what the fuck are we talking? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Just like, it's like, and it's a very different space, but it's like with the people who came in in 2024 post October 7th, the little tech people, that's the line that they'll police. And it's like, I'm sorry, who the fuck are you to tell me anything? Because I remember when I was getting papers pleased, like a real fucking Jew in Nazi Germany.
Real.
You were there helping them. So actually, I'm not here to be fucking. I remember I was in a space with Jeff Giza, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not here to be fucking lectured by little tech while you were out there fucking censoring the discourse over the fucking flu. I don't give a fuck. So
100%. And all these people, all these red pill come lately like homos, dude. Like, come on. Like, they come in and they're going to police how we talk about this issue and how we talk about these grand narratives and saying that, we're running cover, we're Israel shills because we're like either not low IQ anti-Semites or we're not into their weird conspiracy theories. And it's like, bitch, you got red pilled like a fucking year ago. I mean, we've been in this shit for like 4 years. This has been a long time coming. And all this is to say is the flip happened when, thank you, Mo Gummy, for the 3. The flip really seemed to happen when, some of these figures were canceled. But even as we've been talking this entire time, it's this illusion of being canceled. There's still this golden parachute for them at the bottom of it all. I mean, yes, Candace Owens was fired from Daily Wire, but it's like, look at still how much connection she has and the money coming in and the whole like Tucker Carlson CIA stuff.
YouTube, yeah.
Exactly.
She's never been demonetized from YouTube. Or even Mike, Mike Benz is talking a lot of fucking shit all the time these days. He's talking a lot, like, very authoritative. It's like, bitch, you were on Joe Rogan talking about how you, during the alt-right days, had a fucking statue, Avi, trying to push people away from anti-Semitism. It's like, I'm like, go fuck yourself. It's like, who the fuck are you? I'm refuse to be policed by these people who would have said nothing while I got shipped off to a fucking COVID camp.
100%. It feels insulting to your intelligence. And especially when they bring up the thing about credibility, you want to talk about credibility? It's like, you guys have none, right? You totally supported the whole COVID narrative. Even if you didn't support the COVID narrative, you would have been a part of the same Con Inc. establishment that would have seen someone like us have our lives ruined. I mean, I remember, before kind of even, ironically, we talk about October 7th, but even like the Kanye thing, right? The Kanye thing kind of also blew the lid on it because it almost gave us permission in the mainstream to talk about Jewish power. It's like there's this famous trendsetter, the man who kind of makes the taste of culture speaking on it. And I had even an evangelical friend come up to me who a year ago to the day had been saying, no, they're the chosen people, dude. Even if they do bad, like they're still God's chosen. Literally come up to me and say, Connor, I am sorry. You were right about everything, right? And so it's one of those things where there were people who were maybe genuinely waking up and not adopting like low IQ anti-Semitism. But I think this sort of like shibboleth of media and control understood that was happening. And especially, I mean, I would love to get your thoughts on the whole Tucker thing, because that kind of freaks me out. He's shady as shit. I mean, after the way he treated Nick, like, I think he is a part of a grander plan to take this kind of mass red pilling going on and shift it away from really talking about the Jew in the room.
Yeah, no, I don't trust Tucker Carlson as far as I could throw him. I will say I really do find his brother entertaining, especially on the timeline. Buckley Carlson, I find him so entertaining the way he goes for Laura Loomer. Like, there's something about a very flamboyant but heterosexual Southern man, you know, that kind of where it's like a straight Lindsey Graham, where it's like, well, you're actually a dirty cunt, and it's like there's something about it that I love it, you know. But no, Tucker Carlson is obviously someone I don't trust at all. Someone who's like, you got red pilled at 50, like, and then and it was incredibly evident from after the Nick interview, the way that he spoke about Nick, where it's like, well, I just hate hatred, and I hate blood libel, and I hate this, and I hate, it's like, okay, well, there's obviously something here. There's obviously, even this week he's having Ian Carroll on again. Ian Carroll, he loves Candace Owens. It's like, you love Candace Owens, but you hate Nick. You hate Nick. Buckley Carlson on the timeline does a lot of Christian anti-Semitism, whatever, right? That type of thing where it's like, you're not the chosen people, blah, 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 blah. You rejected Christ, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, so that's not hateful. That's not blood libel.
Right.
But Nick is. It's like, okay. And then it's like, you're going to have Nick on, and then you're going to immediately have Milo on, and then you're going to have Halen, whatever, Nayland Haley or whatever his name is. It's like, it's very obvious what you're trying to do here.
It's extremely obvious. And, you know, at first, I didn't really think about his CIA connection or what have you. I think many of us thought it was legitimately he was organically waking up, but they just got more sophisticated. You know, just when we think we're out ahead of them and we're exposing the grand conspiracy, they realize, because yes, our government does stupid things, and you see the way that like ICE agents are operating, and they're not really doing the mass deportations or what have you. But the people in, if you want to call it the deep state or deep intelligence, who are really running the show, they're a lot fucking smarter than people give them credit for. And because of that, they do have their ear to the ground, and they're listening to what's going on in the culture. And so whenever there's a shift that's going to kind of threaten their power, they understand they got to get ahead of it. It's just like a PR thing, right? I got to get ahead of this, because if I don't, I'm going to have to be playing catch up. And so I think for someone like Tucker, they understood, okay, it's fashion right now to be anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. How can we tailor this or twist this in a way where it still fits in with sort of the lib-right narrative of, you know, no, it's not really about Judaism. It's about this made up group of Khazarians, or it's really just about the nation state of Israel, but not the governing ideology that guides literally all their policy.
And you see that on the left all the time as well, where it's like, oh yeah, because they're billionaires, whatever, completely refusing to address the nature of the character of the ruling class. Where it's like, okay, why Israel? Right. Why do they all love Israel? Why not Lebanon? Why not Syria? Why not Tunisia? Why is it always Israel? Why is it Barry Weiss and Ben Shapiro are connected to Israel? Because it's a complete refusal. But to the point that you were bringing up is that what I think you're describing is that it feels dynamic. Right?
It does.
It kind of does feel like we're constantly in this thing where you're making this move, they're making this move, we're making this move, they're making this move, and it's like, especially because like to track the media market is tracked in terms, especially in the media market that we exist in, the microcosm that we exist in, like this kind of politicized corner of it. It's always the time is based on the elections. So as we approach the midterms, it's just going to get heated up again. And then immediately after the election, it cools down for a second. And then as soon as we get to like the end of 2027 or the middle of 2027, it is going to be so insane. It's going to be like, this shit is like going to be, people are knifing each other. There's a new story every day. You think the fucking, Elijah Schaefer subplot was crazy? It's like, that's going to be every day. There's gonna be like 5 subplots going on at one time. It's like, the messy bitch in me though, kind of loves it. I'm like, as long as like, I'm like, I know what's going on, whatever. I'm like, let's fucking go. You know, it's like, but by then I need enough patrons that I could start like being like, I need to like not work anymore. I need to like have this be my full-time day job, you know?
No, absolutely. I mean, you're going to have your work cut out for you. There's going to be like, it's going to be the political equivalent of like Real Housewives of LA. Like this person's fighting that person.
I love it.
And the drama is entertaining. I gotta admit, it is super entertaining.
If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it.
Exactly. You gotta keep intact with that, because if you don't, you're gonna miss out on all the fun.
Like,
Um,
it's kind of like what Kai Clips always says. It's like you got to be jovial. You got to be a happy warrior. You got to if you hate it, don't do it. Go be in like go do whatever. You don't have to just tune out. But it's like you got to have a little bit of you that kind of like lives for, being right and being, there's a bit of you that has to have that kind of happy warrior spirit.
you really do, because otherwise you're gonna be frowning the entire time. It's like, dude, why is it worth it? Have that
Yeah, why are
happy
you doing it
warrior
to
spirit.
yourself? Go
It's
be happy
fun.
somewhere. Go do something that makes you happy.
Exactly. It's so interesting. Like, I wonder, Basil, in your humble opinion, how do you think we can like? I know this is kind of maybe a stupid sounding question, but how do you think JD Vance can get taken down? Like, how do you think we can not have this victory of like big tech and this whole Bapsphere type group? Do you think it's like abstaining from voting? Do you think it's kind of like the ironic like Newsom 28 bent? Like, what do you think is the best tactic for taking down this kind of like network, or what would you see as being the most probable result for taking it down?
So first, I'll say that I don't think Newsom's going to be the nominee. I think it'll probably be like a dark horse, like a Josh Shapiro or somebody else. I think
I could see that.
And it'll be so funny. It'll be really funny if it is Josh Shapiro and JD Vance. It'll just be like a race to who could suck Jews' dick harder. Like that's gonna be really funny to see. But and actually, it'll probably be the best. It'll probably be the best position for our enemies, because they'll be like, oh, you don't like JD Vance with this, but now you're gonna vote for Josh Shapiro. It's like, yeah, actually I fucking will. Go fuck yourself. Because for me, speaking personally for myself, I want JD Vance to lose because the Bapsphere was mean to me, because Anna was mean to me, because all those people were mean to me. So it's like, actually fuck you. It's personal for me. But I think that the most likely scenario is that he probably does become president. But I mean, the most likely way for us to combat that will be an ironic spoiler, where it's like, yeah, no, we're gonna fucking spoil. Because the thing is, I'm not paid, and I presume you are not paid to be a spokesperson for the Republican Party.
No.
If the Republican Party is not the country, we will survive if the Republican Party loses an election. Anyone telling you, oh, then they're going to flood the country with migrants. They did 10 million in 4 years. I think we'll fucking live. And secondly, you are not promising me anything less. You're not going to tell me that they're going to get rid of 10 million, and you want to bring in Infinity Indians. Let me tell you something. As a white collar worker, you know what's a bigger threat to me? Fucking Indians, not the fucking fruit pickers. The fruit pickers don't compete with me for my job. I make enough that I can insulate myself from the fruit pickers, and I encourage everyone to make a bag so you can insulate yourself from the fruit pickers. But you know what I can't insulate myself from? The H-1B who's fighting for my white collar job, who's going to accept the job for $80,000 a year when it's like it's a $150,000 a year job. What the fuck are you talking about? So my thing is like, don't let them hold this like bullshit over you. It's like, oh well, if Josh Shapiro wins, then he's gonna flood the. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you and fuck the Republican Party and fuck JD Vance. That's the kind of take your own. The thing is, anyone listening to this, you got to make money. You got to get a job.
It's real.
You gotta secure a fucking bag so that no matter what happens at the federal level, who gives a fuck? So that way you can stand on your 10 toes down and be like, fuck your fucking Republican Party, fuck your JD Vance, and fuck your 10-year project to get him fucking elected. So that's my 2 cents about it.
I think that's a perfect take. You got to get your money and your power up, because that's what's going to make the long-term change. It's not even going to just be this election. I mean, that kind of like end of the world doomsday rhetoric is what couples with every single election we've ever had. I mean, I remember as a kid with like John McCain and Obama. If Obama wins, the country's over. And it's like, yeah, he did damage, of course, but it's like, it really isn't that way, right? We have a lot longer, and the only way we're going to get over this is if exactly what you said, Basil, you get a good job, you get yourself integrated, and you can make the long-term change.
That kind of like putting all your life and all your hopes and all your stakes on the election comes from a place of your own material insecurity.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I need this for the golden age to happen, where it's like, you need to be in a position where it's like, you're living your golden age regardless. I'm making my 300, 400, whatever your number, whatever anyone's number is. You're living your golden age regardless. So it's like, all right, whatever. I might have to pay a little bit more in taxes, whatever the case may be, because it's like that. that thing of like, oh well, if the Democrats win, then they're going to do this. It plays on this thing of like, you are just teetering on the edge. You
Right.
are downwardly mobile. That's who it works on. And it's like, bitch, if you're on the up, if you're upwardly mobile, then you don't really fucking care, and you get to sit in a position and be like, listen, I'm here to help you if you want to help me, but if not, you go fuck yourself.
100%. You got all the leverage. You got all the damn leverage.
Exactly.
I'm really enjoying this conversation. I hope you are too. I just want to ask, to be considerate of your time, Basil, how much more time do you have?
I'm in no rush. I'm done for the day.
I'm in no rush either. Perfect. We can keep going. I just want to make sure, because I would hate to have you on and you're like, dude, this guy just keeps droning on or keeps asking questions. No. It's so interesting because you touched on you said Vance likely will win the election, but I have, I guess, an important election question for you. At least the way I perceive like Vance's image online, right? Like, people are always making fun of his appearance. You know, he's kind of this like fuddy-duddy, grown in a lab type figure. What makes you say, especially with like the recent ICE controversy, that he's going to win the election? I'm not doubting that. I just want to hear your professional opinion.
I don't mean to say that as like a solid. It's going to. He is not a shoo-in. He is not Trump. And the whole thing is like, the thing about Trump that was different from even when in 2020. Yeah, even in 2020, before Trump announced, was it 2020? When it was like DeSantis was making a play for it. I think it was 2020. Or maybe it was, I don't know. It's like, I can't even keep track anymore. But the thing is about the difference between Trump and anyone else is that Trump holds the MAGA base, which is the majority or the faction of anti-left working people, right? And this is the same thing with Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, right? Where the second time Bernie ran, they wanted to push Elizabeth Warren and be like, but she has the plans, she is more electable. It doesn't matter, because in reality, in material reality, the populace of leftist working people were behind Bernie, in the same way that the populace of anti-left working people are solidly behind Trump. You can't, it's not transferable. You can't just say, give it to Vance. Vance doesn't have it, right? Whatever it is that Trump has, Vance does not have it. And it's all resting on the assumption that Trump will be able to bequeath his base to Vance in a one-to-one type of thing. And that is not a given. If Vance wins, it'll be by the skin of his teeth, and it will only be if Newsom is the vice president, is the Democratic nominee. I think that's his best bet. I think even if it's Kamala, Vance might not win. If it's Kamala again, Vance might not fucking win. Kamala's gonna lose every fucking time to Trump. But to JD Vance, I don't know. It's a different time. We've given, because it goes back to the problem with the ICE raids and all of this stuff. What you've done, and Nick has talked about this, where it's like, if Kamala had won, the left would be confused. It would just be more of us all hating her. It would be, she did the strikes on Iran, and all of the right would have been united against her. We would have had the anti-war angle, blah, 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 blah. But now, because of the ICE raids and all of this, you've galvanized the left again.
You have.
So I don't see. So they're a much more formidable opponent. So I don't mean to say that Vance is a shoo-in. I'm just saying, if I had to put $1 down on it right now, I'd be like, Vance probably gets him by the skin of his teeth. But I don't. Listen, I'm all for. It'll be it's because this is the thing. It's like, I remember when Nick was saying like, we'll see you in Iowa, bitch, like that type of shit, where it's like, if you denounce me, we'll see you in Iowa. But the thing is, Vance is not going to denounce Nick before Iowa.
No.
Right. And if it's close, if it's Vance and I guess Rubio won't run, if it's Vance and whoever is neck and neck, there will still be no denouncement. It'll only be the second Vance locks up the nomination, it'll be like, I disavowed Nick and groypers and anti-Semitism and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, of course, that's exactly how it's going to happen. So it's like, I'll see you in Iowa. It's like, we'll be in Iowa. Like, we're going to be in Iowa and be like, let's go fucking corral some fucking caucus voters. Like, but no, I don't think it's a shoo-in, and I would love to see Vance lose. I would love to see Vance lose just so I could shit in Martin's mouth.
Honestly, I'm right there with you, brother. I mean, even though I don't have much of I don't like the Bapsphere guys, but I don't have too much of a personal grief, to wipe the big fucking grin off Vance's face, that nothing would be sweeter than that. Because that guy, in the way he operates, he is so fake in everything he does. And I think it's why his media people have not been able to make him look good. Even when he's embraced the jokes about his appearance, it still comes off as cringe and performative, right? Even when he's done kind of the more far right angle with the anti-seed oil rhetoric and maybe a little harsher tone on immigration, it still comes off as performative. Even, you know, in the Catholic sphere, and there are some goyim that like eat it up because it's like, oh, he was pictured at the Vatican. Okay, so was Joe Biden, right? And we don't think Joe Biden was a model Catholic, so how is he any different? Nothing that he does, I think, can be like properly marketed just because of how fake he is, just because of how like lab grown he is.
There's too many contradictions. It's too artificial. Yes. There's no there. And this is the thing. It's like we are entering an era of not only the market, but also culture and everything of authenticity. And there is nothing authentic about Vance. Say what you will about Trump. He is singular in that he is authentically Trump. It's like he's nothing else but Trump. Like he is that thing. It's like there is no Vance, because Vance 5 years ago was a completely different thing than Vance. Donald Trump is the same as he was in the fucking 70s. You know, it's like it's the exact same person. Whether he says something or doesn't say something or contradicts himself, it is still all like the system is still unified, where it's like with Vance, it's like just completely hollow and there's nothing there. And it's like, that's not going to play well. That's like in this new era that we exist in.
It's completely that. I mean, everybody, even the people, and I still remember the people bitching about the like grab him by the pussy comment or what have you. It's like, you loved that shit though. Like it was funny. It was real. I mean, I still remember, despite my qualms about Trump, the funniest tweet that has ever come out is the one that he has about Barney Frank. And he's like, Barney Frank looked disgusting in Congress. Nipples protruding. It's like, that's funny and that's real. And it's why he still had this draw to him, where even when people would complain, you know, publicly about, oh, you know, he's so vulgar, you loved that shit, bro. It was the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. Vance is almost a little too sanitized. Right? There's nothing like about him, like even in the way he speaks, his kind of intonation in his voice, the cadence of his speech, it sounds like a kid who just prepared for the President's Day play. Like he's totally reading off a script.
Everything he says feels like it's followed up with a huh?
Yeah.
Huh? You know, it's like he can come out there and say the hard R and be like, huh? I said it. Huh? You know?
What's the deal with the hard R? Well, and it's like emblematic in, I can't remember what state he was in, but it was when he was going on like a tirade of just doing the most cringe stuff in the world. I mean, first it was the whatever makes sense comment at the donut shop. And then I remember he went for that handshake and it was the fist bump and he literally got turkeyed. I mean, if there is nothing more emblematic about his vice presidency and even what's going to be his campaign, I don't know what else there is, because it's just this like awkward, I'm trying to be likable and down to earth and relatable, but everybody knows I'm like a hollow shill.
The thing is, like, I really do think that if it was Kamala, she would actually wipe the floor with him, especially in a debate, because like he got lucky with Tim Walz, where it's like, if it was Kamala, he can't call her a low IQ sub-Saharan G whatever, where it's like that might actually fucking get you some points, but he can't do that.
He can't.
It's kind of like what I talked about on the Benny and Basil show, where it was like there's this problem where on the left there is a unified universe that they live in, from the establishment down to the foot soldier, right? Where when Renee Good gets mag dumped in the face, she's like, oh, I'm fighting fascism, blah, 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 blah. And Elizabeth Warren can come out and be like, she was fighting fascism, da, 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 da. Where it's like, JD Vance, his base is like, Kamala Harris is a half N-word, whatever. But he can't fucking say that.
No.
And if you said that in front of him, he would denounce you. So it's like, there's this kind of like splinter weakness that it's like, you can't be anything.
Well, and at that point, it's like the left doesn't punch left. And that was one of their biggest strengths. It's like you had people that were being appointed to these city councils and stuff like that. I mean, even up in Seattle, like full on communists, like full on, like, you know, Red Star, I love Che Guevara, had a big poster of him in college type people. And I remember the right all the time. And this was so like fuddy-duddy. They should have honestly taken a cue from the left instead of, mocking them for it. They would be like, oh, so you support communism or what have you? They didn't punch left. They didn't disavow that person. They allowed them to continue operating. But if anyone on the right wing, what did we see with the Young Republicans presidents and the leaders of their Young Republicans club? They're saying anything a 20-something-year-old who is ostensibly any kind of right wing would say in a friend's group chat about like, oh, can you believe those gays or, trannies or whatever? And the entire Republican establishment, by the way, fuck Gavin Wax. That guy's a fake piece of shit.
And Darren
Beatty. The moment all those guys leaked the group chat, what was it? We disavow anti-Semitism, we disavow hatred, and they totally punched right. So even when, exactly as you said, Basil, you have a base that is willing to be more transgressive, these establishment figures, they're never going to be okay with that.
Right. And the whole time the base is telling you that, like, oh, don't worry, they're playing 5D chess and he really wants to deport his wife. And it's like, okay,
no.
All right. No. I'm not that dumb. Sorry. And it's like, I want to feel bad for people that are that dumb, but I just have contempt for them. It's like, at this point, it's like, you're just you might as well move.
You really might as well move. And I think in some ways, like, speaking from a more human perspective, but still in this political sphere, I know it's kind of funny for people to like joke about Charlie Kirk, like I'm all kirked up or I'm off the Kirk right now or what have you. His name's become kind of a synonymous with jokes.
Julie,
but
what is it? What's the thing where they mix up his name with something like Kirk Julie? They're like,
yeah,
they mix.
Yeah, it's like they'll Kirkify an image. They'll Kirkify it. I saw like one girl, a poster of a girl at Amfest, and I felt so bad. I thought they Kirkified the image, and it was just like her actual face, and I was like, oof, damn, like that's, oof. I didn't mean to burn her like that. I think she was one of those detransitioners, which, good for her. I'm glad she did that. But like, I felt so bad. The reaction in the wake of his death, fucking Erica Kirk coming out like it's a WWE Grand Slam event and, all his friends using his memorial, whatever that shit show was we all watched, as kind of just a way to show for the Republican Party. It kind of showed also like how really anti-human these people are. And I know Kirk was an establishment figure and many people remark how maybe he even would have wanted his death to go over in that way. But it's like a man gets assassinated, he dies. I didn't even like the guy. I made fun of him all the time when he was alive. And I was heartbroken to see how everything ended up. I wish he was still here and we could go, groip him at Amfest or whatever. But all these people, the people that were closest to him, the way they almost forgot his memory and used it as bumper stickers and placards was just so disgusting. I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole controversy?
And then at the base, it's like you had this thing where it was like, oh, this is it. They've crossed the Rubicon. No more. We've crossed the line, blah, blah, blah. We're doxing. We're swatting. We're doing whatever. It's like, for what? Nothing came of it.
Nothing came of it.
All those people that you got fired, a bunch of those people who got fired ended up getting huge settlements because they were wrongly terminated. Congratulations. You've done nothing.
Great.
You've done nothing.
You've done nothing. And that seems to be the whole rhetoric in politics. It's political theater all the time where, someone gets killed or there's this big event that everyone thinks, to use an old alt-right term, it's going to be like Day of the Rope or something, and there's going to be blood in the streets. Everyone on Twitter freaks out about it for like 5 minutes, a day or two, and then they're on to the next thing. And it's like old news. It's old hat. Nobody takes it seriously anymore. I mean,
it's true.
It's so funny because I remember getting into debates over, do you remember the kind of, it was almost like race riots going on in the UK when that migrant had stabbed those two little girls and killed them? Yeah. I remember getting into full-on debates with people on the right about like, dude, I'm angry too, but like you supporting what these British people are doing, where their laws are far more clandestine and they're a lot harsher and more kind of draconian than the United States. These dudes throwing away their lives for their like moment of glory on Twitter. This isn't helping us win. I got so much shit for that. And guess what happened? All those fucking people, like one of them who was giving me a lot of shit for it, he like trooned out like a month later. I mean, he like totally became like a lolly posting, like anime girl troon type figure. And the month prior, it's like he's telling me, he's like, no, Pine Sap, this is the end result. This is where we stick it to him. All this just feels to put it. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
No, I was gonna say it's because it's a form of nihilism. They want to die. They want to be Renee Gooded.
They do. They want their phoenix rising from the ashes moment. They want their martyr moment. And instead, what your martyr moment is like, who remembers the name of that guy who like self-immolated because of the whole Palestine thing? Nobody. I don't even remember his name. And he thought like he was going to be written about in a history book. It's this weird, we touched on meta reality. I remember prior in us talking about like how the internet kind of has changed our whole perception of reality, but all these people think they're going to have this like earth-shattering, life-changing moment. And instead what winds up happening is we joke about it on Twitter or talk about it on Twitter for like a week and then we just forget about it. Like we go back to square one.
It's the same type of thing that we were just talking about earlier with kind of like being able to exploit your precariousness or your downward mobility to tell you like, oh, this election really counts. It's like that works. The martyrdom, the need to be a martyr comes from this nihilism of like, okay, I'll do this. Then, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory, where it's like, if you have a bag, if you have something to lose, if you have whatever, then you're not going to do that. You're going to try to find actual things that actually work, as opposed to laying your body on the line. It's like your life is more, it's a kind of spitting in the face of the gift of your own life, a type of thing that I just can't ever relate to.
I can't relate to it either. And I was thinking about this earlier, actually, as we were talking. I wanted to ask, but my perception with how everything's changed because of the internet and how politics ties into that, to make this almost like a larger philosophical point, it just all seems like nihilism. Like all the LARP stuff we were talking about earlier, what have you, it comes from, I think, a deeper place of like interior emptiness. Do you feel the kind of same way about that?
It's like it's a search for meaning. And this is exactly why, for a good example of this is like, I used to say, a lot of people, when I would go to Sovereign House or whatever, a lot of these people would like pretend to be, Christian. They would brand themselves as Christian. They would brand themselves as trad or whatever the case may be. But they would have this like Catholic tranny in the form of Pariah prancing around the room, and they would just pretend that they don't see it because they want to curry favor with Anna or whatever the case may be, right? And it's like, sorry, if the scene was such that there was like a trans hijabi walking into Sovereign House, I am not a good Muslim, but I would rip that fucking rag off his head because I wouldn't play like that. It's like, that's like, you're not going to play in my face like that. And it's like, what it is, it's like these people see someone like Milo LARPing, skin suiting their religion or whatever the case may be. And it's like, because really ultimately what it is that they just want to have a community. They want to have a friend group. They want to have a fandom that they're able to like share their in-group jokes with and meme with and whatever it is. It comes from a place of, like you said, emptiness on the inside of it. It's like, for me, it's like, especially up until the past like couple of years, it's like all of my friends were in real life. Even now, the friends I made off the internet are my friends in real life that I talk to and I hang out with. They're in my house, that I go out with them, whatever. And it's like, it comes from this place of like this emptiness of like needing a place to feel like you belong. And it's like that motivation leads you to, being like, well, this is all stupid and fake and gay, but I'm going to make sure that I call Basil Brown because I know that if I say anything else, my friends are not going to fuck with me anymore.
100%. It's so the reality in their lives is more shallow, kind of like social relations or what have you, where maybe they don't really feel that way about you when they, call you brown, or they're like, oh, but Basil's gay or whatever. They might say that, but it's like more the reality of just trying to keep their social ties for their media career, to for their own interests. And all of this window dressing of ideology or religion or what have you, it's exactly that. It's to give kind of the illusion of depth to their worldview, but in reality, there's nothing there. I mean, if I might get personal for a moment, what I admire about you right there, Basil, like, it was a funny joke. We laugh about it, and you say, I'm not a good Muslim or what have you, but I still appreciate that, like, even as you say I'm not a good Muslim, like, you still want to love and follow God enough that you would be so offended about like pariah wearing a hijab, right? I think that speaks to your character, because it's one thing for like the sinner. It's like one thing for the person who's like struggling in this kind of mortal coil of like the human condition to feel that like they're not fully perfect, and we're all trying to figure it out, and we're trying to figure out this difficult life we live in. But to like love God or want to pursue him enough that like you would be offended by something like that. It's not elevating yourself. It's not saying you're perfect, but you don't feel offense for your own sake. You feel offended because you're like, this spits in the face of God and everything that I believe in.
Well, this is something that like a lot of like Muslims who first encounter me who don't understand what my whole thing is, like they'll hear my voice or whatever the case may be, and they'll be like, they try to get on my case. I'm like, listen, I don't brand myself as a Muslim take seller, this, that, or the other thing. But most importantly, what I absolutely don't do and will never do, just because I fear for my own soul, is that I don't say what is haram is halal and vice versa, right? I don't come here and say I'm a gay Muslim or whatever the case may be. The thing is, like, I will never do that. I will never say that. Like, I will never, and that's something I really stress. And it's why I go into some Twitter spaces, especially back when the Taliban liberated Afghanistan. I would be in spaces with guys in the Taliban and stuff like that. And there would be these like lib Afghans who think that they would have this like gotcha. I'd be like, well, Basil, your voice sounds like this, and da 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 da. The Taliban would defend me.
Yes.
Because I would say like, gay is not real, I'm Volcel, blah 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 blah, and those Taliban would stand up and be like, why are you throwing his sins in his sins in his face? Like, he's out here perverting the religion or saying what is haram is halal and all of this type of thing. And it's like, and the real Muslims understand it. It's only the cynical liberal whatever who like believe like gay is a real thing, like what like a person is gay, as opposed to like it being a moral failing, or the difference between like your subjective attractions versus your actions type of thing. And it's like, yeah, that's something that's like, like I said, I don't profess to be a good Muslim in any stretch of the imagination, but I still am, in the sense that it's like, you're not going to catch me out here being like, why don't we have women imams and or like whatever. It's like, no, it's like, oh, well, actually, all types of things that you see like liberals do, like LGBT Muslims, or being like, I'm like, I don't give a fuck how old Aisha was. It's not my business. It's like whatever. It's like that type of thing. It's like it's to that point where it's like, yeah, no, it's like, I'm not a good Muslim, but it's like I also am like, I have a lot of respect and reverence for it. And it's the same reason why when I see someone like Pariah, that would really annoy me, where it's like, you're cross-dressing in church as a choir coach to other young Catholic children.
Yes.
And it's like, my subjective same-sex attractions are one thing, right? But it's like, if I'm Volcel, then what is being gaming? You actively choose to cross-dress and go outside in a skirt. That is not the same fucking thing as like me having a lilt to my voice.
Dude, and not to mention, it's like, he is so shameless in what he's doing. That was the thing that always pissed. I mean, I'll be honest. I've very rarely in my life ever like wanted to like dox someone or whatever. But like, I will admit, in my personal group chat, we were trying to find out the church he worked at to get him fired, because we were like, no, you can't be doing this. Like, if you're working a job at Starbucks, I don't want to get you fired from that. I think everyone should provide for themselves. But it's like, you should
not be in a position of authority over Catholic children in a Catholic church.
Exactly. And it's so offensive and so disgusting. And I hope you don't mind me giving this take about you, but like, when I say this, it's like, I'm not offended for you, but it's like, if I might be real, you're a cool dude and you're a child of God. And I hate when like people might look at you and they might just say, oh, well, Basil's gay and Basil's brown. And it's like funny to laugh at it, because it's like, there's no reason to give, ammo to any of the insults that anyone levels your way. But it's like, you're a real human being, right? Like, you're a real child of God. You're not like these fucking fake phonies we've been talking about this entire time. Fine. They want to call you all that stuff. It's like, you are a greedy pig. It's like, you are a greedy pig. You don't have any ideology. You don't have any worldview. You don't have any religion. And I'm sitting down right now with somebody who wants to love God, who, we're all going through shit. We're all dealing with stuff, but it's like,
And most importantly, fears God. I fear
yeah,
God more than any, like, because this is a thing where it's like more, it's a little bit more Muslim, like the Christian kind of position is, it kind of talks more in God's love, and it's like, as much as, you know, I think about God in terms of like an authority that I fear.
right.
You know, it's like God has rules. I break them constantly, but I know at the end of the day, when I stand before my creator, I'm going to have to answer for them. And I don't play about it, you know, where it's like, and it really annoys me when it's like, oh, you want to talk about the trans question? You're no different. I'm like, bitch, I'm the first person to say that just like the Civil Rights Act shouldn't include gender identity expression, it shouldn't include sexual orientation. Gay marriage isn't real. Sodomites shouldn't be allowed to adopt children. All of this other stuff. It's like, I'm the first one to say it. But on top of that, even if I didn't say it, it's like, it is a very big difference between, you know, me having a subjective attraction versus me putting on women's clothes and going outside.
Legit.
It is not the fucking same thing. You are making an objective choice to cross dress.
You are. And it's an entire, I mean, we talked about brands, but it's like, that's your brand. You are cross-dressing. Like, you know,
a eunuch for Christ in the bio, eunuch for Christ. I don't play about my religion enough to be like, faggot for Islam. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I would never tempt God's wrath like that. I'm like, I have enough on my ledger that I'm going to have to atone for, and I'm going to have to answer for, to play like that. I don't play about it. It's like, listen, it's like I'm not I am not like austere in the sense of like, you know, holding myself to a strict moral standard, but it's like, at the very least, I'm not going to play about it.
no.
I
And
take it
it's,
seriously. I believe it.
you believe it. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, in the Christian world, we always say it's like, God can do anything with a humble heart. If you have a humble heart and you admit, like, yes, I am a sinner. I do these horrible things. And yes, maybe I have this attraction towards sin or depravity or what have you, but like, I recognize that's wrong. And I just want God to come into my life and transform me and kind of get me out of that, right? Or work so that I may be better one day and I can answer before him and be with him forever. It's like, he can save you. Right. He can save you, and you can stand before God and he'll, you know, he'll say, yes, you've done these things, but you allowed your heart to be humble enough that you loved and respected my name and feared my commandments. And because of that, I love you and I exalt you, my son. But anyone, even if you're morally better than, you know, you or I, doesn't matter. If you beat your chest and you're like, I'm just this awesome dude and I'm a eunuch for Christ and I'm going to put on airs, God can't work with that. You're prideful. You're full of yourself. Even when you're acting humble, you're full of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it couldn't be me. It couldn't be me. But thankfully Ramadan's coming up. I'll have a chance to do my penance and my atonement.
That's excellent. Well, tell me about that. I'm actually interested. Do you observe Ramadan every single year?
Yeah. I'm like, it's the least I could do. It's a good chance for me to, you know, it's a kind of clean slate atonement thing. It's like, it's the very least I could do. I don't do my prayers in the traditional sense. I like the 5 times like Salah type of thing, but I do Ramadan. I do give to charity. I do the declaration of faith. I haven't done Hajj yet, but and that's the thing. It's like, those are just like the bare minimum things. It's like, other than that, it's like, listen, because this is the thing too. It's like, people hear Muslim and they think monk or saint or hermit or something, and it's like, no one does that with Christians. When someone says I'm a Christian, no one says, oh wait, but you know, fornicated. Or,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, no one does that. They don't negate the person's faith because they're a sinner, but they do that with Muslims. I think it's kind of maybe just like an Orientalist type of thing. Maybe it's just like a foreign type of thing where it's like, they're like, wait, but you drink. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not a fucking monk. It's like, so, but yeah, no, I will be fasting. I've done that since there were a couple years when I was like, probably when I was like around like 18, 19, 20, 21, I was kind of like libtarded out. I didn't fear God. I was never, and I never called myself an atheist or anything like that. Thank God. I never like apostated, but like I didn't fast or whatever. And I thought I was like, I'm gay. It was so funny because like I came out to like my friends and stuff like that when I was 17. I came out to my family when I was like 24. Um, and my parents were cool. They were very chill. But it was like when I was like 27, 28, when I was like realizing more like, oh, gay is not real. You're Muslim. Like identity is not a real thing. Like whatever. And I was like talking to my mom and she's like, and it was so funny because when I was like coming out to my parents or when the top would come up with my sister and stuff, it's like don't label yourself. That's not real. Da, 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 da. And I just thought they were like being like backwards. I thought they were being like third world, like brown. Like, no, you don't understand. I am gay. Like, da, da, da. And now it's like, oh wait, no, you're so right. I'm not gay. No one's gay. Like, so it's like, but no, I've done it like since I was a kid.
That's honorable. And Ramadan fasting's tough because you guys can't even drink water during your period of fasting, right?
Yeah, but thankfully it's because this year it'll be like more in the winter. It starts at the end of February, so it's like the sun sets at like 5:36. So it's like now in the summers it's when it's a little bit of a slog.
That's well, in a summer in New Jersey too. I mean, that's got to be like humid and hot. I couldn't even imagine trying to fast.
There are people who are like, it's summertime, you work a physical job, and it's like, yeah, no, they really, and that's what it's about. It's about because it's like about knowing that when the sun goes down, I can have clean water and a hot meal, and remembering that there are people in this world who the sun will go down and they still won't have clean water to drink. I can get emotional thinking about it, like where it's like the sun will go down and they will drink filthy water because that's all they have. And it's like it really puts you in a mindset of like understanding and appreciating how blessed you are. It's like it is such a blessing. You forget about how many blessings you have. The fact that you get up in the morning. It's one thing that I've done for the past, it's been a while now. I remember when I would wake up with my alarm, there was a long period of time where the first thought in my head was fuck, because it was like my alarm would go off and like, ugh, I have to wake up. But for a good 5, 6, 7 years now, where it's like the first thought in my head is Bismillah, like where it's like thank God, it's like in the name of God, it's like thank God I got to wake up today. I'm going to get out of my bed on my own 2 feet. I'm going to dress and bathe and feed myself and go to a high paying job and pay my bills and blah blah blah. It's like, so I'm actually looking forward to Ramadan. It's like it's a good spiritual reset.
Well, and it's tough too because when you were talking about that period of life, kind of adolescence, and you're growing into a young man, I feel like all of us kind of get away from what our parents instill us with, right? Because we're trying to find ourselves, we're trying to go away, but we almost, in kind of a prodigal son moment, come back to our formation. Oh, yeah. We always come back to our formation. Right the whole time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is actually this is something that I kind of in some ways pity my more American peers, right? Like my friends who like their parents were born here, their grandparents were born here, their great grandparents were born here, because so much of what my parents taught me, what I grew up with, are deeply illiberal concepts and feelings. And being Muslim and this thing, it's like illiberalism is very recent to me. My parents came to this country in the 80s, right? It's like things like, it's like whereas certain people who try to come to a place where they're rejecting liberalism have a much harder job because their parents were liberals. Their mom was a feminist. Their grandmother was burning their bra. Their great grandmother was a suffragette. It's like they are 2, 3, 4 generations steeped in liberalism. So it's like they kind of have no referent point. So it's like what they end up doing is kind of like just believing that illiberalism is just the equal and opposite of whatever the left is doing at any given moment. And like that's not necessarily true all the time. Like just because a leftist says that the sky is blue doesn't mean that the sky isn't blue. And I'm like lucky in a certain respect where it's like I have this very immediate referent of like, that's why I always say where it's like there's no such thing as a social conservative in America, because I always joke it's like, you know, some of these social conservatives will be like, my daughter's not marrying until we find her an upstairs. I'm like, wow, you let your daughter leave the house? That is very progressive. You are such a liberal, man. I cannot believe it. Wow. Hippy dippy. Okay. Like, so it's like, it's a different context and a different framework.
No, it completely is. And American culture in a certain way has this effect of like flattening the more like illiberal old world formation. And it's sad because I think in some ways, yes, there's a lot that happens in this country in terms of opportunity, the rugged individual, you know, kind of motivating you to want to better yourself. But what happens is in the old world or in the illiberal world, there's a sense of community and family and these time-honored traditions and values and lessons you hand down. In sort of the American life, it's almost that statue, you know, that statue of the gentleman like chiseling himself out of the marble. Mm-hmm. It's that every single generation, you're having to like reform yourself. You're having to reform yourself and like instill your own values, and it feels kind of foreign to you. I think that's why like the LARPiness or nihilism persists, because you don't have this community around you. It's like you're having to chisel yourself out and like make your own way
for it. Yeah, you're searching for it. And to that same point, it's like, you know, when I was growing up, it's like growing up, I still think I'm Italian. Like I just growing up here, it's like I swore I was Italian. Like Christmas Eve, we do 7 fishes. Like it's retarded. It's so stupid. But it's like, because also growing up here, it's like I thought all white people were either like Italian, Irish, or Jewish, and then it's like come to find out like none of those people are even white. Or like I thought like all Christians were Catholics, and it took me a long time to realize, oh no, that's like Catholic is separate from like Protestantism. Like, you know, it's like it's just because of my context growing up. But it's like my best friend growing up, his grandparents immigrated here. And I remember I would go to his grandma's house and whatever. And it's like listening to his grandma talk sounded like listening to my parents talk, because my parents are the ones who came here. And it was just like, I always joke, it's like the old world is all the same, right? It's like they come here and they're just like, the boys like be men and the girls don't be whores. Like, it's like, that's like kind of like the same type of traditionalism is like the same throughout the whole old world. And it's like only by coming here do you get like indoctrinated into this like 200 years of like this liberal, you know, priors.
No, it's so true. And I think a lot of people try to, it's tough because, you know, in the sort of like meta political realm, people either, if they want to be pro-American, try to kind of identify or defend that like liberal sentiment, right? Like you constantly have to remake yourself, because to not defend it means you're third worldist, right? You want to support the old world because you want like brown people to replace white people. But then on the opposite side, you get like, and you were going off about like the ACP people, where they are actual third worldists, and they try to use that kind of more old world mindset to say, this is why America needs to be the bootlicker of like Russia or China. And I think in some ways, not that there's a middle ground, but there's a third way where it's like, no, I think the old world people do get the mindset right. I think there definitely is that like right mindset, but it doesn't mean we have to like promote mass migration to make that happen here.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so true. It's like, and the thing is, it's like what it is like people really think that the world began in the 1960s.
Yes.
They think that the world began at the sexual revolution. And it's like, there's all of these old videos that you'll see on YouTube where it's like, you know, Birmingham 100 years ago, colorized. And it's like all the women are covering their hair.
Legit.
They're all wearing a hijab. And it's like, or even here, even in this country, people say like, oh, women couldn't have credit cards until 1973. It's like, okay, putting aside the fact that like no one had consumer credit before 1973, really. But the fact is, even prior to women's lib, we had coverture in this country.
We did.
I remember one time Radfem Hitler tweeted about you should be able to sue someone for wasting your time or for lying to you to like get you into bed, and like as though they're going to marry you and then absconding. It's like they used to have that here. It was called the tort of seduction. But you know who had standing to bring it? Not the woman, her father, because we had coverture in this country. Because it was people forget just how Abrahamic the West was just a century ago. You know, the flappers were a fucking revolution
They were.
because it was a complete rejection of a woman covering her hair. You had to have your hair. The reason why women had their hair up was it was evolution of covering your hair. And it was like, yeah, so people really don't, people want to, like, you want to talk about the third world? America in the year 1900 was the third world.
It literally
It's like
was.
you think that the first world only began in the sexual revolution. It's crazy.
And at that point, it's like we were getting our culture imported from Europe, from all these countries coming in. That was our culture. We were like the breadbasket for this European experiment. But then once the 60s hit, we become the exporter. And then suddenly we're, going in Iran, we're going in the Middle East, and we're like, oh, reject kind of the more austere, like Muslim past and be more liberated and secular and all that kind of stuff. It's so funny because you see those like trad influencers online, and I'm thinking of specifically the male ones that make like the Instagram reels, and they're, trying to do their outfit check. It's like the high-waisted like pants and that sort of stuff, but they'll promote like flappers or whatever as like the trad thing. And it's to your point, like, you let your daughter like leave the house? That's progressive, right? Like that's the progressive thing right there.
The fact that you had women, like the way people talked about flappers at that time was the way that the Taliban would speak. It's like, these women are mixing with men. These women are in vehicles with men, and it's like scandalous. It's insane. But you know what it is really truly is that the advent. So when I talk about censorship and all of this stuff, especially as it relates to like trans and gay and stuff, I'm always talking about Bostock, because that is the Supreme Court case that included LGBT into Title 6, 7, whatever, right? Lawrence v. Texas decriminalized sodomy laws throughout the country. But no one talks about Griswold v. Connecticut. And Griswold v. Connecticut was the case that made it so that states couldn't deny unmarried women access to hormonal birth control. Okay? Wow. And hormonal birth control is a technological advancement on par with the internet and fire.
Yes.
Because it was the first time that we decoupled sex from the risk of pregnancy. Everything that we talk about from the gender wars or blah, 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 blah is downstream from the decoupling of sex from the risk of pregnancy and Griswold v. Connecticut. And we've never as a society had a conversation or grappled with or dealt with that thing. And it's like, before then, women could get birth control if they were married, because It was like, okay, it's family planning. It's how it's same thing with, Muslims and abortion, right? Muslims have a position of like abortion is permissible up till 3 months because that's when we believe that the child is ensouled, right? It's like the old school, the quickening, right? It's like when you feel the child, it's like that's when it's ensouled. But it's because abortion and family planning is only in the context of a marriage. Well, How are you getting an abortion if you're not married? Because how are you having sex? Guess what, bitch? You're getting fucking flogged.
Right.
You committed fornication. Fornication is flogging. Adultery is stoning. So but that's the thing. It's like no one wants to have that conversation because we all want to pretend that the world began in the 1960s.
Well, and it's exactly that thing about how really when we coupled sex from marriage, it gave this complete independence where nobody felt like liable for their action anymore. I mean, like back in the past, for you to have premarital sex, it was literally stoning. You would be isolated from your community. It was funny.
It was so fucking risky. It was damn, if I lay down with you, I might get fucking pregnant.
Legit. And you would almost have those funny like 1950s kind of after school special type videos they'd show you in school where it's like, Johnny had premarital sex and now he's a communist, right? Like there was this whole social stigma around it. But what's happened now is due to the invention of the pill, it's just free reign. You can do whatever, you can be whatever. And that carries with it a lot of social change that I would agree. It's like the atom bomb of social change. It hasn't really been addressed, but that's why we have like the red pill and women feeling like they can sleep around, and then men reacting to that and kind of going the Andrew Tate route towards women, which I see as almost kind of like a reverse, like, oh, if feminists are going to get theirs, I'm going to get mine kind of attitude. And really what that leads to is like the breakdown of the family.
Yeah, it's accelerating the degradation. But the thing about all of this is that we can acknowledge this, but the fact of the matter remains, you can't put genies back in bottles. The
Mm,
only way out is through, right? So it's
mm.
like, even if we were to say we're going to restrict the pill to, married women only, you now have this thing where it's like you have like the reaction to the ICE raids or whatever. It's like it's such a complicated issue that it's like it's hard to offer a solution to, but you can't even get to a type of, because the easy solutions are the types of things where you kind of like the return solutions, right? Oh, put the gays back in the closet and put the women back in the kitchen. It's like you can't. The only way out is through, and that it's I do. We live in a postmodern moment, and I love postmodernity because it's the only thing that allows for so many of us to exist, where it's like you have all these like contradictory type of identities and positions, and it's like I love it. It makes life, I think, fun and exciting and all of this stuff, but it just means that our solutions also have to be postmodern in that way, where it's like it can't be, there is no going back, there is no return, the only way out is through. And it's like, but it's about understanding what got us here so that we could create solutions that take those things into account.
Right. It's exactly that kind of attitude of how do we like press through this issue in a sense of like coming out on the other side, right? Some people think that on like a cultural level, we're going to go back to like the 1950s if we all dress like it's the 1950s and drive stupid cars like it's like the Fallout show or whatever. And that's not the way. I mean, even though I would promote something like restriction a little bit more, I still recognize at the same time it's like you need kind of a deeper like cultural change to give backing to something like that. Otherwise, right, it's like awkward, and it's like the attempted ICE raids, right? Where you're kind of like walking on a limp leg, and all it leads to is like neither side is appeased. You don't get mass deportations, right, but you get also the left super angry and riled up, and they're thinking it's like the Gestapo or something.
Delegitimizing the pro-social thing you were trying to impose, because if you can't
right,
actually impose it, it ends up delegitimizing it. So it's like, don't get me wrong, it's like I'm not here saying not to have restrictions, but it's like, I'm all for, like, if you wanted to, it's like if you wanted to recriminalize sodomy, I wouldn't give a fuck. Like, I wouldn't give a shit. It's like,
of course.
So it's like, it's like I don't want to poop. I never punch right on those things to say, but like that but it's different to say I'm not going to punch right on those things. It's also say it's like that's not going to work.
Right.
It's like it's different to say like it's one thing to say I'm against that versus that's not going to work. Let me just point out, like, go ahead and go for it, but that's not going to work.
And that's the thing we have to recognize. You and I are both at the drawing board looking at the same map. It's not like you're turning your back and being like, no, I hate that. Get that out of here. I'm
like, no, you can't, because if you do this is gonna happen. They're gonna do this if you do that. You gotta do something else over this. It's like,
no, that's such a good point, because I mean, literally, this was the beginning of our discussion when we just got right into it, but it's about realism, right? You can't indulge in fantasies. Life is not an Instagram reel. It's like, that's fine that you look at the, little dark age edits and it's like, Hitler falling away from the ice castle or what have you. That's all funny. We all like that, but reality is something different. And so you have to be, as long as you're not, to me, compromising on the goal, you have to be open to the solutions to get there, right?
That type of pragmatism is actually more it's in more reverence of the actual goal,
yes,
as opposed to like a rigid, no, the goal is this. Meanwhile, the means by which you're asserting that you're going to get there are completely fake and gay and don't work or whatever. It's like, right, you are telling yourself that you care more about the goal than I do, but I actually care about the goal more by being, living in reality.
Well, and it's like, to use kind of an Aristotelian term, it's like essence versus accidents. Like, you're not all caught up in the accidents. The accidents aren't what you're trying to work towards. It's the essence. It's the cream. It's the milk, right?
So true.
So true. Dude, I could just keep going for hours and hours, honestly, speaking with you, brother. You are so awesome. And like, I really appreciate having you on the show.
It was truly a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
absolutely. Would you real quick want to just read the super chats we got sent in, and then
I would, yes, absolutely.
perfect, and then you shill every single show, your Twitter account. I want people to know that you're a household name.
Thank you, thank you.
We got, let's see here. Where did I'm trying to look like where all this started. Okay, Yilvik sent $1.67 Pinesap. Do you think that the Teal Network is using Catholics for some bigger purpose? It seems like that way, considering how Catholicism was mentioned in the Epstein files. To touch on that, because I don't want to keep Basil's time for too long. Yes, but no. I think even as Basil actually pointed out, I think they're shifting to Eastern Orthodoxy. And the reason why is because Catholicism, due to like God's divine protection over the church, you know, there's bishops and cardinals that can say like silly stuff and definitely maybe go along with that plan. But Catholicism ultimately can't be subverted, right? The faith itself can't be subverted. However, with Eastern Orthodoxy, it's like you have kind of enough of like an inroad there where you have the illusion of being like, this is the true Christianity. But at the same time, like you can have bishops that are like Duganists and stuff like that, are totally into like fourth political theory. I mean, we've seen that during the Russia-Ukraine war. And Basil, you've probably seen that on social media too. Like they're giving sermons about how like the Ukrainians are like the Antichrist and stuff like that.
Right. But I think you're right that the actual church, the body of the church itself does have these safeguards, but there are these kind of adjacent things, right? Whether it's Opus Dei or the Hallow app. Teal is a funder in the Hallow app. Opus Dei has all these connections to them. So it's not necessarily the body and the organization of the church itself, or even the doctrine of the church itself, but it's these kind of like, the Knights of Columbus is like a para-church type of thing, or it's like, so Opus Dei, for example, would have teal tendrils in it, or the Hallow app would have teal tendrils in it. And it's not necessarily the church itself, but it's those adjacent things.
No, and you're so right about that. Like if we don't recognize that, or like the moneyed interest there, we're going to get the wool pulled over our eyes. I mean, I remember, you probably know about this actually quite a bit too. Like the Jesuits were infiltrated by the CIA like all the way back in like the 50s and stuff like that. And that had a massive negative impact on them because they ran all the education, especially in this country. They ran a lot of the schools, and these schools went from being like, you know, nuns slapping the knuckles and stuff like that to then only like 20 years later, like, hey, birth control and gay marriage and all these other stuff. Well, what happened there? It's like, it was totally that infiltration and moneyed interest.
Right.
Mo Gummy sent $3. There is a concept called perfect possession. Basically, your intention lines up with the devil. That demonic manifestation is almost non-existent. It was the topic unknowingly committing the evil they do. Also, what is up, Basil? I see what he's trying to say. So when you earlier were talking about like it's not satanic, the devil has a way of like, even though the intent isn't satanic, like it's all part of his like
self-consciously being satanic, but totally get
exactly. Totally. That's a really good contribution, actually.
They think they're just having a, you know, esoteric themed orgy, right? They think it's a joke, but it's like, no, actually you're doing you're doing a black mass.
Legit. Well, actually, you know, that gets me a little bit on an interesting question. What do you think of, I know this picture has been going around for like years and years and years, but like the surrealist ball in the 70s with like the Rothschilds. Do you think that was like kind of a satanic black mass, or like a lot less serious?
I wouldn't be surprised if like 2 or 3 people were like, no, we're really, look at all of the energy we're bringing here. We're really like, like, you know, someone put their tampon in the fucking punch bowl or whatever. But like 2 or 3 people did that, when it's like, everyone's like, oh my God, look at my fucking fit. It's so cute. You know, it's like that type of thing. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, it's a mix of both.
It's like one person's thinking like, oh, I'm just wearing like a cool Van Gogh mask and it's not a big deal. And then the next person is like, yeah, I'm actually like incorporating this Aleister Crowley like secret seance going on. Oh, Gog, thank you for the $2.
It's like the movie. it's like the movie Halloween Town on Disney Channel where they go to the thing and everyone turns into their costume. You know,
Yes.
it's like they go, it's like they actually like it's that kind of thing. It's like they thought they were going as Frankenstein, but they go to the thing and the black mask and they actually become Frankenstein. Anyway.
100%. Dude, I'm glad that you made that Disney movie reference. That's an old one, but a goodie.
My millennial ass.
Well, it's funny. So I don't know if kids in other states grew up different, but at least in Colorado, we had like a very like 90s Gen Z formation. Like we watched all those same old Disney Channel movies, all the same shows. Like I remember growing up watching a lot of the same movies that the millennials did. And so like when I became an adult, like, and a lot of millennials were talking about like their childhood experiences, I was like, yo, I had that on VHS. Like I watched like Tarzan on VHS and stuff like that.
You know, I was watching this Instagram reel or something that showed that they were like a lot of Gen Z people don't have the kind of the far-reaching cultural references that millennials do, because millennials grew up in a time of the kind of explosion of cable where a lot of these stations and these channels would fill up their airwaves when it's like a proliferation of channels before they had the proliferation of content.
Yes.
Would fill up their airwaves with like old reruns like Nick at Night and all these like I Love Lucy and TV Land and blah 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 blah. So it's like as kids you just grew up seeing all of this old content, whereas Zoomers, when they by the time they were coming up, there was just already a glut of original content and online content and things like that. So it's like it was a very interesting thesis that I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
It totally makes sense because I mean, the younger Gen Zers, they always had like YouTube and stuff like that. But I still remember when like Boomerang, run by Cartoon Network, was popular, and you were watching like the Flintstones one moment and like Dexter the next.
Yep, totally.
Heck yeah. Keaton Augustin sent $5. Basil single-handedly shattered my illusions with the mop-in, Pat Socks, MAGA communism by forcing the trans issue and acknowledging reality. Thanks, big guy. Love you, Piney Sap. Yeah, so you were writing on the timeline. ACP has totally gone the trans route, apparently. That's crazy.
So actually, okay, so because I'm an anti-left Marxist, right? Back in 2019, 2020, I was like seeing this the American Communist Party back, like that type of shit was like, oh, okay, cool. I like that. Like this is really up my alley. So I would be in space. I would go into spaces with Haas. And this before Jackson showed up, before whatever. I'll be like, hey, this is the trans question. This is how it's related to censorship. Blah 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 blah. 3 times he rebuffed me. 3 different times. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. Oh, that's culture war. I don't know anything about that. Blah, 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 blah. You sound obsessed. You sound weird. 3 different times. But it was like, I was a nobody. I had like 100 followers, whatever, right? 3 times he rebuffed me. At that same time, he was associating with, what's his name? Peter Coffin. I don't know if you know this person.
I remember that name.
Bread tuber, fucking DSA tard, painted nails, they, them, whatever. I was like, dude, this guy has a gender identity. This is liberalism. This is the left. This is DNC. Like, this is not material working class, whatever. Also, they had Caleb Maupin on, who's Caleb Maupin's political mentor was a tranny. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? So I wrote them off completely. I was like, get the fuck out of here. So now all this time later where it's like, you know, people know who Basil is now. And, you know, tons of MAGA communists the whole way liked me, like the Lemmings and stuff like that. Samira likes me, but Haas and them do not fuck with me for that reason. And I'm like, look, even in your own fucking ranks, you are trans inclusive. You do not exclude trans people. And I would say for any organization that allows trans people in it is a leftist organization, is a Democratic Party organization. I used to joke, I'd be like, any room that has 2 people with a gender identity in it is a DSA meeting, because it is the line that they can't cross. It is inextricably linked to the thing. So now that I'm starting to talk shit about the ACP more, I have all these lemmings. But nowadays, the thing with the ACP now is like they're leftists who can say faggot and can say tranny and stuff like that. So some of them are like not trans, whatever, but there are trans people in their ranks. And I'm like, and this is the thing too, where it's like, I am a take seller. I do not talk to the help. I don't. If you ever seen the movie Scarface when Michelle Pfeiffer's dating, like, I don't fuck with the help, Tony.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't fuck with the lemmings. And this was like earlier before like Nick noticed me and whatever. I would get annoyed with groypers because I'm like, dude, I don't like. This is how I analogize it. Think of the media market as think of like the entertainment industry. Think of the music industry. I am BB Rexa. I'm a nobody. I'm just like a fucking, nobody pop girl. Nick is Beyonce. What the fuck do I look like as BB Rexa arguing with the Beehive? I'm nothing, and Beyonce is Beyonce, but Beyonce is my peer. She's a much bigger peer. She's a much more famous peer, whatever. But Nick is my peer. Nick is much more famous, much more whatever. But he is my peer as a take. So what do I fucking look like arguing with the fans? So the same thing with the ACP. I'm like, Haas knows who the fuck I am. Samir knows who the fuck I am. I'm not fucking arguing with the fucking lemmings. Go get your fucking boss. He knows who the fuck I am.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things where the ACP is not big enough to have that kind of leverage or clout. They're not Beyonce. I mean, I always love how all the time they beat their chest and act like they're this big thing. It's like, I don't think most people know who the fuck Haas even is.
You're a pimple on the ass of the pimple of the ass of the Democratic Party.
Legit.
You're a pimple on the ass of like Hassan Piker, and Hassan Piker is a pimple on the ass of the Democratic Party. And this thing to like, well, Haas has a space every Thursday. You should come see. I'm like, no, Haas has a space called Confront the Con. I'm not doing this shit where I LARP with you. Haas is not my fucking con. And I'll tell you fucking what. No. I finished law school. Haas could fucking never in his fucking life. Get the fuck out of here. He is my equal. He is at best. He is my equal. So I'm not doing this thing where I'm like, hello, Haas. I have because I did that 3 times when I was nobody, and I was like, hey, Haas, this is a really important issue. And you rebuffed me 3 times, and then you started fucking a rad fem, and you started taking rad fem talking points about how, like, yeah, the trans thing is actually bad for women. Fuck that shit. I don't give a fuck about women's sports. I don't give a fuck about women's rights. It's about the fucking censorship.
W.
Like, no, now it's like, when you would come to me, we're going to come to each other as, at best, equals. I'm not coming to this shit where it's like, well, Haas, what about the... Get the fuck out of here. But yes, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. I mean, I remember during this election when they were trying to be like, no, we're like not anti-Christian, and no, we're like conservative, and communism's always been conservative and stuff like that. It's like, dude, these fucking people, they have like no identity. They stand on no principles.
Like, yeah, no, we're not anti-white, but we love when that guy's like, kill the bois. It's like, okay.
All right. Let's see here. Mo Gummy sent $3. Whip, get back to work. John Goyle, get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. So true. So, okay.
Get back to work, John Goyle. Get back to work, John Goyle.
I don't, since you and I have just like started hanging out and know each other's names, I don't think you heard this, but I mentioned Amfest. Did I tell you that he crashed out on me at Amfest?
No.
Dude, it was like the weirdest fucking interaction I've ever had. Like, there was that video you probably saw on Twitter of like the Groypers making fun of him and pressing him. And he's like, and if I wasn't a media personality, I'd knock your fucking teeth out. I was like, damn, okay, like calm down, bro.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, tough guy over here, right? Well, I realized...
Hold it back.
Hold it back. Yeah, lazy Irish eye and like, 5'4". Yeah, hold him back, guys. I wasn't looking to fuck with him at all. And I know he had already been pressed, and people kept telling me he was like on edge that entire weekend. So, I'm walking to get coffee after I have like lunch with some of my Georgia Young Republican friends. And I'm walking down the street and he sees me and I see him. And I just like nod. I know he doesn't like me. I know I don't like him. And as I'm walking, I hear from behind me, got nothing to say? You talk a lot of shit on Twitter. What the fuck? And he comes up to me and, Basil, I'm not trying to brag, man. I don't do, listen, short kings rule. There's a lot of tall people that are like retarded, like, Sloth from the Goonies. He's like to hear on me. Like I'm 6'3". He's like to hear on me. And he's looking up and he's saying like, listen, Pine Stab, what you're doing online isn't Christ-like. And all that stuff happened 3 years ago, the whole Savannah Hernandez couldn't get it up type stuff. And he's like, what have I even done since then? I'm like, literally this year you called Nick gay and you took like a picture with Milo and, the rest of the degenerates trying to say that you're going to take down AF. And he's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Well, I just get tired of you guys making fun of me because I have to go to my priest and confess feelings of violence towards you. Bro, calm the fuck down. Like, violence?
Shit.
I mean...
Dude, I'm not made for this shit. I am too fucking Jersey trash for that shit. I am too... Because that's the thing. People hear the voice. They get a little confused. It's like, baby, I am Jersey fucking trash. I And I'm not the one to come up to like that because I will stuff you, bitch.
You will. You don't mess around. If they did that back east, he'd be flattened.
I hate to even talk like that because it sounds so stupid and like juvenile, whatever. But it's just like, I am not the one. I can't be. Listen. I'm very easygoing and whatever. Like I go to Times Square, whatever. It's like not a big deal. It's like I'm not gonna fight anyone. But it's like, I am not the one to try to press because I am not going to be intimidated by no fucking takes out. Like get the fuck out of here.
No, dude, you don't mess around. I have no doubt you would flatten someone like that. Like.
Bitch, you got a limp ass fucking keyboard wrist. You gotta get out of my fucking face.
It literally was that. And I was like, he had his boy, oh my goodness. He's like the Protestant guy. He's like the knockoff Kai Clips, like posted up right here, like he was gonna kick my ass or something. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even mess with you. Like, we're just walking. But after that, he's like, well, anyway, bro, God bless you. And I was like, God bless you too. But I've never seen someone like, I mean, it was like Chihuahua shaking angry type energy. That was like the weirdest thing in the entire world.
That whole like, and that's what I really don't like too. It's like, you want to be Miss Rowdy Bout it, right? Don't fucking filter that shit through, well, I had to confess and also God bless you. It's like, fuck you.
Legit.
If you want to be tough guy, let's be tough guy. If you want to be little choir boy, let's be little choir boy. You stay in your fucking corner. Don't fucking come over to me acting like tough guy, talking like choir boy. I don't fuck with that shit.
No, it's totally like a blending of worlds. It's like, bro,
oh, God bless you, assalamu alaikum, bitch. Like, let's whatever. Let me not.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, let's see here. Mo Gummy sent another 3. When big tech was switching sides to the right, I thought it was because they were scared Trump was going to bulldoze them. Turns out it was all part of the plan. Turns out the game was rigged from the start. So true.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, we got 3 more quick ones. Anti-left Marxist Groiper sent $50. Thank you for that. Hey,
wow, thank you.
Oh, someone sent another one. Okay, thanks for the 5. We'll read that in a moment. He said, hey, Basil, since Pine Sap lost weight, he is kind of hot. Love Demi Groiper's game. Dude,
stop.
I don't know what's going on with all that.
Give me your Cash App after this.
Hey, I'm the one who has a Cash App you.
No, this is my right-wing mutual aid. I love giving handsome white men money.
EOG sent $2. Thank you for that. GOG community leader sent $2. He said, hey, Pine Sap, when's the Will Stancil collab? Maybe Al Carbo will be there. You could share some gabagool. Dude, I've been so behind on the Will Stancil stuff. He just, wasn't it that like Grok said that like it was going to rape him or something like that? Wasn't that where he got popular?
Yeah, that's kind of how he popped off. And then there was a whole like Emily Eucas, Will Stancil stuff. But the latest actually is that he's getting fucking snuffed at fucking like protests and stuff by other leftists because they're like, oh, you're recording us, you're a Fed, you're this, and they check him. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
So he's really getting it from all ends. But you know, at the end of the day, Will Stancil won.
He won.
All this fucking talk, all this shit. Will Stancil won. It's the Stancil Reich.
It is honestly the Stancil Reich. He won at the end of the day. We're seeing edits of him everywhere. Like, bro won the war. Let's see here. Okay, we got one more. Cade sent $5. Thank you. So glad you're back to streaming. Yeah, it's good to be back, and especially having great guests like Basil on, man. This was an amazing show. I was just blown away about how much like fun we had in the cut up, and like you gave me a lot of insight that like I had never heard a lot of this different stuff going on. 47 IQ donated 100. Dude, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
That's massive. Okay, I'm so brain rotted now. Anytime I hear thank you, I think of that video of like the Marine is like, thank you. Like it's so bad.
They took that somewhere else on the Instagrams that I follow. They're like, thank you. Stop.
Oh man. But honestly, awesome show tonight. Guys, thank you for watching. And Basil, please shill anything you want us to follow, man. We're all yours.
Thank you so much. So you can follow me on Twitter at Bazillion Thought. You can also check out the Benny Basil Show on YouTube. You can search Benny Basil Show. It'll come up. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Benny Basil Show. The YouTube is every other week, but every other week in between is the Patreon exclusive. So this Saturday at 9:30 will be our first Patreon exclusive, and it's every Saturday at 9:30 on YouTube and on Patreon. And if you're in the market for beef tallow based products, which are great from North Idaho Tallow, you can check out BennyBasilSoaps.com, and we get a little cut of that, and you help support a nice American owned white business making great products.
Heck yeah. Well, and not to mention, guys, Benny and Basil
Benny
Show.
with an I, by the way. It's Benny with an I, by the way.
Benny with an I. They're at you guys are at 1K subscribers right now. Am I correct about that?
Almost 2K. Almost. We're about to 2,000.
Almost 2,000. Guys, please get them to 2,000 because they are like a criminally underrated show on YouTube. I was listening to both of them, like driving on the way back from getting gas, and I was just dying and cracking up. Like, you guys got to listen to the Benny and Basil Show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a lot of fun there. We have fun.
Heck yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Basil, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. And we'll stop the stream here.